On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, we've got Heian-kyo. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but it just hit me.
Ta-da.
Also, FGO's Thanksgiving event did happen. There are banners. Who's on them? Either you know already, or you'll have to wait to find out. But there's also a little something interesting coming out of JP as well. Anyway, I am one of your hosts. I am the Deal Master, Omega. The bargain I offer you this is our entertainment continues to be free on YouTube as always. Please watch us. Lots. Thanks. With me as always, he's turkey stuffed. Lucky.
Jesus. Everyone, I hope you're enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka feeling a little Genji in here. And while we here at Studio Mag would like to bring you the latest in FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for both the JP and EM version of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should instead think about the buyer's remorse for all these Black Friday deals.
So many deals.
There are so many deals.
So many wheels.
I'm literally like rolling on the ground right now thinking about like the $300 I spent on a new desk and tablet. It's like, I know I want to need these things, but still, why can't one just fall off the back of a truck in front of my house? I cry every time.
Yeah, well, here we are. I haven't got a lot of stuff, but we have until, Cyber Monday also exists. Got a lot of things going out. Just gonna keep your eyes out for fun times. But yes, we're going to talk about lots of things. And of course, if you are not caught up on Heian-kyo, don't worry right away. But yes, Lucky and I both finished like basically right away, so we're done and dusted. So if you are not done, you may not wish to watch some later segments. I don't know how in detail we're gonna get on Blow by Blow. We'll talk about that later as well. But keep your ears out for our spoiler warnings. But we can go ahead and fire off down the line. And I will say, of course, obviously you can get this video for free on YouTube all the time. Same bat time, same bat channel. We do have some lovely patrons who help us out. And if you support us on Patreon, you can get some extra little things when you get there. Well, we'll definitely reiterate it when we get to the free talk. You'll know it's coming. The question is just, will Robyn exist and be spoiled to do the time codes or not? But otherwise, we're probably going to yell about it a lot anyway. The question is just where it'll show up exactly in the edit. Because pre-edit, I can tell you exactly where the spoiler cut will happen. Post-edit, I don't know, because I'm going to refactor this thing 6 ways from Sunday. And usually I cut out about 20 minutes of awkward silences and long pauses. Anyway, as I was saying, this episode is brought to you by our patrons, which includes Adam DeHarp, Architect 10, Blackest Doji, Carlos, Dragon, Ferris, Jeremy Vasquez, Just the Thay, Jonathan Sandoval, Legendary Boss Hunter, Regent Raptor, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robyn, Sharvor, Sean Pryor, some guy named Bob, 723, and Varian the Crow. If you like what we do and want us to do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. It helps pay for those things that, like he said, like desks and tablets, and lots of other goodies. And like I said, it helps us out. Thank you for support, everybody, as always. And extra support thanks for the big show up you guys had last weekend when we did the show live. Did quite well, reacting to the panel live and then firing through all the news and stuff. Seems pretty good. People watched it. People nice. Liked it. You guys had a lot of fun. Much. We did have a little bit of problem exactly with the opening.
Oof.
But I was able to constitute a trim edit to cut that bit out. I've heard some people say the audio might be a little desynced now. Hopefully it's not too bad. If it is bad, I'm sorry. I can't really fix it now, but we did what we did to get the video unblocked, because otherwise it's a pain in the butt. But that's just something in future things I will remember to be, muting and tabbing out of. I gotta get better at my video switching.
It's one of those things where you don't necessarily think about it until it's happening. We're like, shit!
Yeah, it's a thing where it constantly happens to us. The problem is it only comes up like once every 6 months, basically. Or, 3 or 4 months. So you gotta remember the reflexes. And knock on wood that nothing happens from it. The video footage for the CM is in there somewhere. I do not believe we got dinged on that anywhere, and the video is still available everywhere. It's just the OP footage and the Maya Sakamoto singing is like, that's where Sony is like, no, jail.
Like none of that?
10,000 years dungeon. And I'm like, okay. What if I trim the segment? And then like, okay, you come out of the dungeon. Man, we're having a really loosey-goosey intro considering this show is probably not going to be super short. Anyway, let's go with our regular segments and stuff. It's been a while since we did a normal show recording, as Lucky has been ill.
Yes. I am recovered. Huzzah!
Alright. let's check in with everybody's favorite Kohai. I think it's been a little bit since I actually did the button for this.
Senpai! Senpai! 起きてください.
Because it's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, our regular segment for pro tips. I actually have a couple notes here about that. I also should throw out there, technically you were mostly well by the end of last week too. It's just that if we did not do that live reaction to the panel, we would not have had a show.
True.
There was so little that it was otherwise happening with FGO on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. There would be no show. But we did, cover plenty of things. But Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, our segment for pro tips. Got a couple of things here. Number one, if you happen to be playing FGO in France, not 100% sure if our audience is out there, but if you are, we do get some international viewers. The current update is disabled there on the iOS store specifically. I'm not really sure why. They just said that there's an issue they're trying to fix, but you apparently cannot access, I think it's the latest version of FGO from the iOS store in the France region currently. So, as often happens, Apple continues to fuck people. But also, just a general tip, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, based on the other stuff that's happening now and our general scheduling for things, I don't think we're gonna be getting those leyline stones this month. So if you're counting on them, do not. I expect probably we're gonna get the equivalent of that million downloads campaign somewhere in the middle of December, and they're probably gonna dish out the leyline stones to help people catch up a little bit, so they can stay current with content, but not dish it out right away. I do kind of hope some of that stuff does not stay that way, because Leyline Stone rewards seem pretty baked into future story releases. I hope that us rejiggering our schedule doesn't fuck that up, because I would really like to coincide the parts with the free revives. Thank you, Nissan and Albert, if you're listening. We did joke a little bit during the panel react that Albert secretly squats in our Discord. He talked about seeing things on the internet, and we're like, yeah, we see those. But there you go. There's our pro tips. We can move on from Records of the Throne, our regular achievement topic. It's pretty simple.
Yep.
I have mentioned this, both of us already. I got the Heian-kyo grill secured already. It was pretty fast. I tried to get a screen cap, but my current phone case is bent on the top, so it's hard to push the buttons where you take the screen cap fast, and I missed it. Kind of wish FGO hung on those screens a little bit longer for the cool screenshots, but anyway.
For me, pretty much the same. Lucky got that golden finish, got a grail, and then, I got that golden smile protected. I'm very happy. Yee.
And as neither of us are rolling yet, there's no worry about anything evil happening.
Right.
You have to wait a little bit on that one, guys.
Yeah, give it till next week's show.
Yeah, the game is stockpiling shitloads of Saint Courts on me, so we'll see how that one trails out. But, well, luckily you don't have to. That's at least a month away. It's 2 months technically. It's like early February, not February, January. I can do math. I know what time is. I'm not like some people who forgot what day Thanksgiving was. Apparently a real problem for some people, because time is meaningless.
It is ephemeral.
Father Time keeps on advancing. But we do have some master missions to check in with you and see if you finished them. So, did you finish your master missions? Some pretty basic stuff here, as usual, with a lot of story event type things coming out. You've got 15 each for Archer Rider, Saber Caster, and Lancer Assassin Berserker enemies. Defeat 15 of each of them, not servants or bosses. You will take care of the Saber Caster one and the Lancer Assassin Berserker one by just doing the story. I do not recall if archers or riders appear literally anywhere in the main story. I don't think they do. Because it is kind of short, so you may need to do some dailies to chip that one away. Or possibly some of the free quests might have those options, but yeah. Well, luckily it's no servants or bosses, so yeah, servant enemies don't count. So yeah, I don't think there's any archer or rider mobs in Heian-kyo, so you may need to go to your dailies or do some free quests for that. The defeat 3 good servants and defeat 3 evil servants, the next 2 master missions. However, very easy to accomplish in Heian-kyo if you're catching up on that. It's just 3 and 3. Also good if you're doing dailies. And then defeat 15 undead enemies of any type. So, also pretty easy to handle with Heian-kyo, but you can catch it in other ways as well. Or just punch skeletons in Fuyuki if you're that desperate. Shouldn't take you too long, pretty simple. So, that means it's time to move on to the Skelegrams. The newsies. Also, yes, Accident Patron Chat brought this up. As usual, Fuyuki FX will also take care of most of these. Again, if you're if you did not finish all of these just by doing story content, you can catch up pretty fast. But we do have some Skelegram news. First of all, as we alluded to, Part 2, Chapter 5.5, Naraka Mandala Heian-kyo Thunderous Flash released. I used an exclamation point. Happened on the 21st. So here it is. It's coming out. You got 16 Saint Quartz for the stream and the social media engagement, so 6 for social media goals and 10 for the stream. Master level was indeed bumped to 160, so that got an increase. And the banner 1, Dubi, Doman, and Suna, and the new CEs. But with the added power of the pity. So I believe this is phrased as, is it called Guaranteed SSR Summon?
I'm not sure.
They had a technical term for it. Everybody knows it as pity. Basically, to explain, if you are not familiar with this concept, if you are on a singular banner that doesn't have rotation or anything, but if you're on a singular banner and it does not change, and you roll on that same banner and you spend, or you perform, I should say, technically, 330 summons, and you did not get an SSR in there anywhere, you'll be given the limited banner SSR. Or I think even non-limited releases as well if they're on rate up. Basically, you get a rate up unit included in there if you somehow manage to go that far. Now, note that this is 330 summons, not 330 Saint Quartz. So it'll be about 900 Saint Quartz. However, it is very explicit. Paid and free quartz count and summon ticket summons count. So you can actually make a decent chip in the number of summons this way. By being free-to-play, as it were. And also, obviously, it accounts all the bonus Saint Quartz in your paid packages as well. The stuff that is quote-unquote free. In general, a lot of people obviously have lots of thoughts about pity. There's a lot of it in reaction to last week's show when it got announced. You know, we didn't really be able to dive into the mechanic because a lot of those news articles hadn't posted. This does also include what they talked about earlier this month with the big, quality of life updates. You do now have the summon history. You can check back your summons back to 500 summons in the past, I think, is the max limit. Mm-hmm. So you can see, when you got, who you got what, and how it worked out. Overall, as we kind of, talked about on last week's show when people were reacting to it, pity is an interesting mechanic. I don't really think it's meant to be for completely free-to-play casual type players. It's still 330 summons. If you want to do that raw, that's $400 worth of Saint Quartz if you go from 0. It's that many 80 packs. However, as I pointed out earlier, tickets and free quartz do still count. It is absolutely possible to hit the pity rate amount of Saint Quartz and being free to play. You just have to save a shitload of Saint Quartz, and you might say, Omega, that's ludicrous. Yes, it is ludicrous. Tell that to the people on our Discord who are talking about having enough Saint Quartz saved up for banners to have pity. It happens. I know it's not very common, but it's possible. So I don't want people to phrase this as it's impossible to get pity as a free-to-play player. It's not. You just have to know exactly what banner you want to roll on.
Like I said, we also have the benefit of clairvoyance in this. People know that pity was going to arrive at some point.
Yes.
And so people have been saving in advance.
Yeah. Well, we ended up getting it over a year early. Mm-hmm. So, in general, I think of this system is a backstop. It means that if you are spending money, if you are a reasonable amount of spender, or if you are trying to go that extra mile with your budgeting and free quartz, you can now count down how many summons you have and then how much you may have to actually pay out if you want to get the servant. You miss it from your normal savings and stuff. It gives you a budget to work with, and it lets you know that, hey, if you want just NP1 of this servant, which a lot of people are content with, this is your minimum backstop. Now there is a cap to the amount of money you're going to have to put into this, which is all right. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's, the worst either. I should also point out that obviously, statistically, technically, in 330 summons, you are supposed to have summoned at least 3 SSRs, because it's still a 1% chance. So obviously it's a little extreme, obviously, because it's 330, but statistically, percentage-wise, you are not necessarily supposed to be getting to pity anyway. It's just meant to, again, like I said, give a spending cap to how much you need to put in order to hit it, which is decent. I also had a funny thought the other day. I wonder if more gacha games are introducing this concept so that, like, there are people and regulators who are very persnickety about is gacha gaming gambling? Well, if you have pity, no, it's not a gamble. There is a minimum amount of money you have, or a maximum amount of money you have to pay out to get the item that you know you will reach. So it's not technically a gamble. Yes, it's just a very bad investment. You will not see that money back. You may or may not see your time rewarded as well. That's going to depend on your own personal preferences, y'all. But this is a pretty astonishing, early release for us. A lot of people predicted it with Korea getting it early, when they also got Muramasa early for their 5th anniversary. But it is still interesting because this was obviously, directly by Lysengal, and it was announced by Kano Yoshiki, who, flew over to New York and was at the panel and was like, "Hi, here's the slide. Guaranteed SSR summon.
Boom.
Thank you very much." And it's over a year early for us in terms of banners, which is pretty interesting. And we've already seen some of the results of that, because that's kind of a perfect segue into our next news topic for NA, which is another North America thing, the FGO Thanksgiving Special 2022. So we did get our Thanksgiving drop. It was not pre-announced at Anime NYC, and it's fairly minimal, so it seems like that's okay. Just kind of surprise announcement on the day of, working it out. So it's going from the 24th to the 4th of December, so you got a little bit of time there. First of all, you've got total logins for some stuff. You can get some extra sync quartz and some other things, just a little bit by total logins. It's like 1 rare prism, 1 something, 1 sync quartz, just 3-day total logins in here. That's good. There are special master missions for up to 10 sync quartz, which were pretty clearly bugged. People were showing bugged screenshots, but when I double-checked earlier today and logged in and did all my stuff, it all worked fine for me for the story clear parts, so I think they fixed it if there was an issue.
Yeah.
But if you tried earlier and could not get them, double-check again. It should clear out now. We got some half AP dailies, or at least EXP and treasure vaults. Materials gathering, I believe, is still full cost. Little weird, but, there is a Christmas coming up, I guess. That's usually good for mats. We also got the double suck.
Yeah.
And we have our first JP-style post-pity multi-banner rollout, including the same graphs that JP posts for all their banners as well, so what days and what dates these servants are rolling out and what they're on their rate-ups. So we've got 5 special Thanksgiving servants you can roll on, also now with pity. Starts with Benienma, then Aresh, Summer Nero, first Asan, and then Summer BB. A couple of them overlap, but in general, it's kind of a, stair-step mechanic. No Gilgamesh or Skahak in sight.
Surprising.
Honestly, we make the jokes about this, but Skahak had a rate-up in Skahak Fest, which was 2 months ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Gilgamesh also had a banner somewhere around there as well. I think in the last month or 2 months. So, not that stops them, but also they were kind of recent, so it's interesting to see. But yeah, so a handful of scattered rate-ups if you're interested in some limited servants. Always a fun time. Obviously, a lot of these characters are pretty popular, so we'll see. But obviously, thanks to the power of clairvoyance, a lot of people are waiting with bated breath for quite a few other things that are coming out in the next, month or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see how it shakes out. At the very least, them releasing the Pity for Thunderous Flash Banner 1 means that also it is included with Thanksgiving, as I said, and will be included for future rate-ups, so it's interesting to keep track of.
Yeah.
So, now we have our JP bit of news, because there was a little bit of news, especially over the last couple of days, some of which is getting to some interesting places. First, though, the Singularity Repair Support campaign continues. We have our probable last banner, because it is Epic of Remnant themed, and it's all of them, so it feels like we're hitting the end of the road here. Does mean that it doesn't seem like they're doing a Merlin raid up for a Temple of Time Temple Solomon kind of thing, because we jump straight to Epic of Remnant. But you've got a selection of banners which rotate through the following. You've got Moriarty and Edgemia, and the Altar. You got a Shez and Penth raid up. You've got a very packed raid up for Shimosa. It's Musashi, Munenori, Danzo, and Hozoin. Gee, I wonder which one has the most positive experience in the fan base and with the authors. And then the next one will be Abby, Kirky, and Shiba. So again, got some limited units coming back. Got some story locked units in there. So keep your eye on those balls if you want. Knowing, of course, that it will be at least until next year before a brand new SSR is dropped. We still know that from their talk about Lost But 7. Oh, hey, anyway, what's this? Lost But 7 pre-release support campaign, Part 1.
Oh, no.
Starting on the 23rd and going until the 31st of December, so literally the whole rest of the year, we will be doing support for the pre-release of Lost Belt 7. If you clear main story, you can get some leyline stones and saint quartz, up to 10 stones and 12 quartz, respectively. Also, I think it was either earlier this month or late last month, they did some login reward and MP shop leyline stones you could acquire. They are not adding extra copies of those if you've already acquired them. They just extend the deadline which you can acquire them. So, if you've been away for a while, or haven't redeemed those yet, you can stock up if you need them. In general, if you've cleared all the bits of Avalon LaFay, they are actually talking about it as, Avalon LaFay Part 1, Part 2, etc. You can get some other goodies, 5-star EXPs and other fun stuff, including 10 Saint Quartz total, if you've actually cleared all of Avalon LaFay. Additionally, this is really fun. If you've cleared Lost Belt 6's prologue, you get double suck. You get the double the suck chance. Which I believe is for at least a couple of weeks of this duration. Also, up to the second part of Lost Belt Part 6, the second drop, everything in story is 0 AP. I presume that as time goes on, because this is only Part 1, they're going to step that up to include all of Lost Belt 6 and possibly even 6.5, because I do believe you need 6.5 cleared before you can go to 7, so, usual stuff. There is also a comeback campaign, a Returning Masters campaign if you've been out there for a while, and we rolled out 2 new summon banners. It's for Castoria and Small Da Vinci. So, continuing to round out our rerun banners for the rest of the year and give you good support setups. Both of these guys, I believe, had pre-release for Lost Belt 6 campaign banners, so makes sense. They're trying to get you to clear Lost Belt 6, especially. Give you some good units to do it. Get you some extra stuff there, some good synergy. So that's pretty neat. And that, so far, is the general end of our news. The Lost Belt 7 pre-release stuff is pretty interesting. It says Part 1, so it looks like they're going to have multiple phases of this to make this work out. No exact news if we'll get a, new Christmas event, because we did get a lotto earlier already, obviously, with Fairy Night Cup, So, we'll see how that shakes out. It does kind of seem like they're going whole hog to get you caught up with story and then have Lost Belt 7 in some fashion, depending on how it's broken out, drop probably a week or two before the end of the year so that the delay on the new banners isn't too long. Because remember, if you don't recall, they have officially announced that there will not be brand new summon banners right when Lost Belt 7 drops so that they can keep some of the characters secret. I expect our, special newer JP spoiler-only channel will be quite vibrating when it happens. But, yeah, so with their combined statements about stuff, you will not see those banners, I think, until 2023. So, yeah, that's news.
That is the news. So, with all that out of the way, let us switch on over to Free Talk, where we will start with this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. This week we have 9 submissions, and it probably won't take too long to get through them all. Probably, maybe.
I feel like the submissions might be a little low this week because obviously we live streamed for quite a while last week with the panel, so maybe some people got some of their comments out then. I'm hoping that as time goes on, because I know that because of it is kind of interesting that like you would normally expect a big story release over a holiday week to allow people to clear a lot of stuff, but also I know a lot of people in our community, who are still working during this time period, which is very busy if you do work. At least for like almost every college class I ever did, if you're still a student, they always make sure to assign you something to do over the Thanksgiving break. So you don't have to show up to classes, but you usually have like a fucking paper or something due at the end, or a presentation. So got to work up towards finals. And obviously, holidays with the family, you can't always be at your phone. So maybe next week, if people have extra questions about Heian-kyo, they can submit those. Sorry, drinking some refreshing water.
Some hydration situation.
It's important.
It is important. But with that, let us begin. And this first one comes from a master giving the Shinsegaemun their most dangerous mission yet, finding, capturing, and murdering an evil clown. Hey, Lucky Namega, hope you're keeping good spirits and health. With the arrival of Heian-kyo, my love for Kentucky has skyrocketed to new heights. My question this week is, which servant has, in your opinion, changed the most based on a story or event lease? positive or otherwise, sending you the good vibes, wah 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 wah, and wishing you the best of luck in the hunt to give Doman the death he deserves. P.S. Happy belated Thanksgiving, and may your turkeys be delicious, if you have one. Did you actually have a turkey, Omega?
It was small. We just bought some turkey breast and cooked that part. But yes, there's some turkey in the house.
Yeah, no, I'm not that lucky. My roommate / best friend's family came over, and they decided that they needed to cook for us. We didn't ask them to, but they're just like, no, we are here. We cook now. There are 2 turkeys. We got fucking turkey fries and everything. I'm like, oh god.
Oh my god, 2. Jesus Christ. Like, listen, I love to eat the leftovers. Throw them between a couple slices of bread, turkey sandwich. It's real good. I'm probably going to be doing that until next week alone with this already. And it was just like, for the most part, me and my mom, because my dad is like working right now. That's why we had kind of a subdued one. It's the life and emergency management and disaster response stuff. But I 2 turkeys, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, there are a bunch of unsolicited leftovers in my fridge, and I hate it.
Yeah, because they're in your fridge.
Yeah.
And you've got to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. But onto your actual mailbag here. I don't know if I can necessarily say off the top of my head if someone who's changed due to a specific event.
Yeah,
I'm usually like
the actual story or event release. Does it just say story or event release? I don't know. Like certainly, I mean, I guess you can generally say, like, whatchamacallit, like, story is what makes us usually want to roll servants, whether it's the event story or the story, you know? You can say a lot of the times my opinion goes from neutral to there.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. I very rarely have like straight up like negative opinions about servants. Usually I'm much more neutral or meh about them, and then I do the event or story, and I'm like, oh no, I love them.
Oh no, good writing. And even this is like, positive or otherwise. I don't really think I've been too turned off of characters for like rolling purposes. I mean, I guess you could say like, there is a reason why I'm not rolling on the Doman banner. Because he's an evil clown fuck. Honk honk. Everybody at home, did you appreciate the demonic clown honks I put at the beginning of the Doman Wanted? I was truly inspired that day. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess that is kind of interesting. A lot of people have negative responses to Nero in Septum. I didn't really. I'd played Extella first, so I was kind of like,
yeah, same. Yeah. She's gonna umu. So I'm like, yeah, no, that's Nero.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had problems with Septum like a lot of people did. It wasn't necessarily about Nero the character. It was more just about how kind of undercooked Septum is as a chapter. There's a lot of stuff that happens just because these are the launch units we made, so we have to put them in the story somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but in general, I mean, y'all should know, I was not nearly as upset about Scheherazade as a lot of other people were. I think her dialogue in Arc Arthur was very muted. For the most part, it's kind of weird. I think I have a slightly different opinion than a lot of people who play FGO. Like, if a character is a bad character, like they are a villain, they do bad, monstrous things, I'm like, you're not a great person and I don't want to roll for you. I don't care how cool or sexy you are. See my own personal opinions on characters like Doman and like Kiara. I'm just like, yeah, no. I do not enjoy your company. Please no. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh, but the sexy.
Excuse me, I do not do Hannibal noises.
Well, that was a slurping sound, but also, no, that wasn't necessarily at you. Even though I can hit you with that brush.
Yes. I mean, I did deny it. I just deny Hannibal noises.
No, yours is just the sound of a credit card being taken out. What is that sound? What is the sound of the credit card slipping out of the wallet?
I want to imagine a shing.
It's probably what it is. It's that sound effect they used in every fucking scene with Suna. Not that I don't like that sound, but I was like, man, we did this sound effect in this and these 2 story sprites, so we're gonna use them, huh? But yeah, like, I don't really like turn positive on characters who I think are like really, really bad. And there's plenty of sympathetic characters in Fate. Like, again, Extella was my first major exposure to Tamamo, and like, people were like, oh man, Extella really ruined Tamamo's vibes. I'm like, I don't think so. I think she's fine. I don't really have any complaints. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And I don't usually get annoyed at characters who are not normally antagonists, but are against us through circumstance, whether that's, Devilish just brought up out-of-character stuff. Like, I don't really get upset about, like, Gawain or Tristan, because the story explains to me, like, yeah, they're being kind of assholes now, but that's not always how they are, and stuff like that. So, like, with Scheherazade, I'm just like, I mean, yes, she was contracted with the Demon Pillar for a particular reason, but, that's part of the motivation. I don't really hold any of that stuff against her. Because if I hold things characters did while summoned not by me against them, I could summon probably nobody. I'm on camera, because I actually, I think I streamed it, when I rolled for Jolter, on her initial banner, and got her in, like, 2 10 pulls or whatever. Right away, I was like, okay, cool, I'm switching over to the latest Singularity banner. I'm going to roll for Maeve, and all of my Jolter Saint Courts just went down the hole, and it took me like 2 years to get Maeve. I'm not against rolling for people who are bad, it's just if I think they're interesting or not. And so, I don't know. A lot of people in the FGO audience seem to hold grudges. I feel like it's part of, maybe it's part of our nature is a lot of secondaries. We've talked about this before. In the original Fate Stay Night and in a lot of other original Fate works we borrow these characters from, a lot of these characters are, like, really a bad news people. Like, Paracelsus' characterization every single time he shows up in like, a non-comedic story is about the time where in Prototype Fragments, he kind of did a very bad, no-good thing, right? A lot of that is also, like, how Avike brought in Lost Spell 1 is portrayed. It's the same with, like, Cursed Arm, Cursed Arm in Heaven's Feel is just a slasher villain, basically. He has almost no characterization. He is just a really ominous, powerful, spooky, bad news force. Cursed Arm in FGO is your adorable grandpa.
I'm an uncle.
Yeah, uncle. Good boy uncle. Slightly older brother. He's not a real, drawback character at all. It's interesting how, like I said, I guess it might just be, people are not used to how Fate works with constantly switching around characters, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think there are a lot of characters who are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like them, before they appeared, and then they appear in the story, and I'm like, oh, I don't like you. Most of the time, I think I know when I'm not gonna like a character. What's this, an evil clown man? No, I do not. I do not like it, Sam I am. I will not eat him with eggs or ham. I don't think that rhymed really worked. I should apologize to the Dr. Seuss.
You should apologize to me instead, because now I just have an image of fucking Doma and just laying naked with eggs and ham on his fucking body. Why did you do this to me, Mega?
Well, you've done it to the entire audience, so...
Yes, I had to share that.
Leave this in. You saw it, you can't unsee it. Or is it... No, it's yeah, you heard it, you can't unhear it. That's very true, because we're mostly non-visual. Some visual.
Some visual.
Sorry, there was something very funny in our dump.
Okay. Oof. Excuse me.
I'm trying to think of recent ones. Yeah. We can move on. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I'm forgetting, but I don't really think there is. Let us know in the comments, chat, your thoughts.
So what are they?
Were there characters you thought you were going to like and then you really didn't? Or characters you thought you weren't going to like but then really did? Let us know.
So let us move on to the next one. And this next one comes... oh, excuse me. This next one comes from a Tallyman of Nurgle.
That's why we're all hacking and coughing.
Sir. Ma'am. Something in between.
Goop Lord.
Goop. So they say, hey guys, wanted to send you some good vibes. Wah, 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 wah. This week, and hope you're doing well. Now I must get back to painting my stinky boys. Take it easy. Well, you do you. I hope it's well. I think.
Don't forget to thin your paints.
I just need like 800 Bob Ross memes like right now.
Finish painting the miniatures you're working on before starting new ones. Other tips from the internet.
Thank you, Carlos.
Ooh, it's old school Bob Ross. It's early seasons. He's got the really long beard and the glasses. Welcome to this part of the show where Omega describes gifs that are only in patron chat to audio listeners. No.
Alright, I gotta ignore chat because I gotta actually read this out loud. So, this next one comes from the Hassan preparing for his master's degree. But they say, hey, Shogun Lucky and Abe no Omega. Omega, would you consider yourself a mage? More of a mage than a warrior?
Probably.
Yeah, makes sense. How goes the stuff? I'm sure you've been expecting it, dreading it, but which GSSR are you going for? I'll be skipping the next Let's Talk FGO until after I finish Heian-kyo, but I look forward to the 6-hour episode. Take care, and best luck on your Buki rolls. Given my lack of St. Courts, I will be skipping her, unfortunately. I don't even know what the GSSR is. Well, I do, but I don't.
Yeah, no, I've even seen people post images, and I'm like, don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. We still got like a month before that happens. This year's really complicated, so I don't even remember like how we do what now. So I don't know. I'll figure it out later. I'm sure I'll have figured it out by the time this month is over, and I've seen 10 million images of people doing their thing. By the way, I'm gonna warn you: if you're in my Discord and you're posting your GSSR lists, if I see you post it like twice, I'm gonna get you. Don't post that image twice. Trust me, there will be more than enough of your attempts. Yeah, Chad is saying it's gender and then also knights and cavalry, and I'm just like, okay. So what? There's like four picks? I'll figure it out later. That was not an invitation for you to explain it to me. That was God, it's a pain in the butt. So I'm not even sure. I would really have to study, because I think all the servants I've gone like balls out on this year and whiffed are either 4 stars or are permanent, technically. Like, I went pretty hard out on Odysseus and didn't get him. I'm probably not going to go hard on Vishra because she's permanent. So, I don't even know.
I'm probably going for the one that Kama's on.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like, you're probably looking for extra NPs on, like, a Kama or something. So that'll be, cavalry something.
So, with that... Oh, they actually had more. Cheers. P.S. If I save every St. Quartz that I can from now until June, I can guarantee a copy of Morgan, Queen Sky of Light at Pity. In a worst-case scenario. May or may not involve buying 2 packs, but hey, I'll take it.
There we go. It just takes willpower.
Yeah. Something lucky, Max. Very much so. I don't know why I was about to say Omega.
No, I'm usually good at saving. Usually.
Yeah, usually.
For St. Quartz, anyway. Give me, like, video game or book deals. That's when I'm bad.
I feel like the sirens heralding someone's doom are a lot louder than they should be. Is my window open? Hang on one second.
Well, I didn't hear it on my end, so it's not that bad. But if you got a window open, you got a window open. But no, seriously, chat, that's if you're curious with Black Friday deals and with, Steam sales and shit, that's usually my kryptonite, is like, you show me a game that's like 90% off or even 50% if it's a moderate enough price discount. I'm like, I can't miss it. And then that's how I end up with like 5 Steam games I bought in summer I still haven't played.
Oh, that reminds me, I actually do need to lock in my barotrauma so I can grab all the people and we can go scream in the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, I believe Loth said that he grabbed it on sale too. I already got mine during summer, so.
Perf.
We have several watery boys.
But yes, my window was open because last night I was hot, so I decided to open my window and let in the 40-degree night air, and I was comfortable.
Hey, you gotta let in the cool.
Like, I wasn't actually cold with my window open, it's just like, those sirens are louder than I thought.
Yeah, do be like that sometimes.
Alright, but let's move right along. This next one comes from Clown Puncher 9000. I imagine this as a clown robot, not a robot that punches clowns.
What if he's a self-effacing clown robot? He's a clown robot who punches clowns. It's all a disguise so he can get closer. He moves unseen throughout clown society.
This has the beginnings of a very weird novel, and I'm not sure I'm for it.
I was thinking, a crappy B-movie. Clown Puncher 9000.
Yeah, I could totally see that in, like, the fucking 60s.
Coming
60s.
soon to a theater near you.
Nah, mid-70s. Mid-70s.
He was a clown who was rejected by other clowns in a horrific accident, and he was rebuilt as a cyborg. He now exists only to kill his own kind. Clown Puncher 9000. Someday we'll be like everybody else and we'll get animated bits. We can animate that. Hell, I can punch that as a clip later, maybe. Somebody timestamp that for me later.
Ugh.
That'd be a great short we could use. No context, Clown Puncher 9000. Alright, anyway. This person wrote something.
No, I feel like we should just leave it there. It's like, no, we're just going to end on Clown Puncher 9000 and move on and just leave that just cycling in everyone's brain. No? Okay, fine. They say, Dear Lucky and Omega. Oh, now that I close my window, my acoustics has changed, I just realized. Dear Lucky and Omega. No question this week, just sending the good vibes. Wah, 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 wah. And wishing you well. Keep up the good work. Y'all are one of the highlights of my week. Thank you. I'm gonna keep that feeling. I'm gonna put it in my Kokoro. It's comments like that make me want to do this. And thank God I get them. Otherwise, I'd probably be like, no more, Meg. I'm done. Wah.
It is important.
It is important. Listen, positive reinforcement is the fuel of my soul.
We do this because we like doing it, but if people didn't like us doing it, we'd probably have to do something else.
Yeah. It's from Moon is in allergy hell. They say, hello there, Mug and Lucky. Hope you're doing well. No question this week. Just seeing the good vibes. Wah, 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 wah. As I worry about finals. Well, don't worry too much about finals. You're either going to pass them or you're not.
Hopefully you have a good idea already.
Yeah. Listen, everything... Prepare for, like... Most ordeals can be overcome with 90% preparation, 10% execution.
I could have sworn you were gonna bring up the perspiration in there.
I almost did. Listen, I am not good with multiple P's.
It's 90% preparation and 90% perspiration. Wait, hold on.
That's 80-100%, motherfucker.
That's right. That's how hardcore I go. Boom. No, I don't know if there's anything I've 180% in my life. Like, I've definitely given 100% for shit, but I don't know if I've ever, like, redoubled my efforts. I believe renowned internet guy Hank Green has a thing he talks about where with projects you should get it to 80% of the way done and then put it out what you think is 80% of the way to perfect, because it's much better to release two things at 80% than to not release one thing because you're agonizing over getting it to 100%.
Oh, actually, that's how I live a lot of my life, at 80%. People are all like, people are always all like, oh, you need to put in 100%. I'm like, no, that's way too much fucking work. Because once you hit that 80 to 90%, your efforts to gains becomes a fucking bell curve, and it's really, really sucky.
And also, I feel like in general, people get a little too obsessed with getting out the perfect thing. Like, obviously, we know there's stuff we done that are not perfect. There's stuff we want to redo over. There's probably, like, for instance, Wanted has changed over the years. There's probably a few of those that would be better at redoing. Though, having tried to do some retakes on stuff, those videos don't do very good, so y'all are not necessarily encouraging me to retake them, but I'm not going to, like, throw them out because they were of the time. But, it's also, like, you never get shit done if you focus super hard on getting it, exactly pixel perfect every time. Because I'm sure a lot of you guys in the audience don't really, don't really care if we get it, like, 100% perfect in our heads. You guys want the thing. You want the shiny. So, let me get them there. And hey, 80%, that's passing grade.
That's a B-. Oh, alrighty. Well, let's move on. This next one comes from... Sorry, my computer made a noise at me, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that happens.
Sorry.
Sure, people on my end understand when sometimes my computer makes a noise, though you guys still hear because I'm capturing my desktop sound. I'm just like, pause. It's nothing. Never mind.
Listen, Lucky activated fight or flight mode, and I reached for my fucking knife, and I'm just like, wait a minute.
Activates reflex mode.
Alright, but. Here we go. This next one comes from the Tiger King praying that MP5 Ibuki isn't too painful. Guy, I'm gonna be real. It's gonna be painful, but you're gonna have MP5 Dragon Wife.
Surely you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's like, this is just a obstacle between you and true power. One that must be overcome with your wallet. Shing!
Offer thy wallet.
Thinking about Grandpa Taco Bell again.
We have fun here, Chad. That was 14 this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch that stream. It was a little late and a little short because I was finishing up Heian-kyo. You should go watch it. In the first 30 minutes, Lucky keeps trying to talk about Taco Bell and can't, and it kills all of us. Literally, one of the boss fights in that dungeon, I was like, I can't see. I'm like crying right now. My eyes are stinging. I think I still did my rotation okay.
Nah, that stream I definitely increased my improv skills. So, except for the coughing, I guess that was technically improv.
I mean, what's a better example of yes and than realizing you have to cough?
We got to cough. Anyway, this person says, "Hey guys, with Pity's now an NA sign, does this affect your roles in the future now that we got it over a year early? Anyways, that's it for me. So good vibes your way. Wah, 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening." I'm gonna be real. My plans have not changed.
No.
Honestly, it might save me money if I'm being real.
Yeah. You've had some big blowouts. We've talked before about how there have been a couple times when you've been staggered at the amount of money you've spent on FGO.
Yes.
And honestly, for me, it doesn't really change mine. I still with this being my primary gig, and then I have a little bit of side work which doesn't pay that much. Just random shit I pick up. I can't really afford to blow like $400 on every single banner I would want to roll on, still. So I will probably still be saving. It's just that the pity is gonna sometimes probably eke a little extra money out of me because I'll be like, okay, I've already rolled like 500 Saint Quartz on this banner. If I buy a few 80 packs, I can make it to pity anyway, like, it might encourage me to not be defeated and go that extra mile, but we'll see. It probably doesn't change my outright plans for saving and rolling. It just means that I might, now that I have a guarantee, I might overextend myself a little, Also, speaking of my eyes are once again kind of itchy. Ugh. Vacuum up in here again. It's been a couple of days.
Shit, did my light novels arrive? I should check. Sorry, Lucky was smart. He called his mom today before we started recording, because she had called him earlier. And she's all like, yo, my child, put shit on your Christmas list so I can buy it for you. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yes. So I've been working on that on the side.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that would require Musashi to have a rate up, which is the Singularity campaign the next one she's got? I feel like Saber Musashi rate ups are a little skinny for haha funny the joke reasons. I also don't think I hit pity with either of her run. Maybe together I would have hit pity, but not the separate attempts. I don't know. Some banners are just bad. Sometimes you gotta. Well, okay. Omega's style of working is sometimes you have to retreat in order to tactically regroup. Lucky's plan is to just fuck it, smash through. I break through. But sometimes I feel like the banners are bad and you gotta regroup them. I know that's like superstitious as fuck and that's not how the stats work, but it feels like it sometimes. As I once again maul my poor eyeballs. I know if your eyes are itchy, you probably shouldn't rub them, but I'm very shitty at eye drops. Lucky has posted an Akira gif about his stratagem for acquiring SSRs. Yeah, Lucky is just looks at the roll rate for SSRs and is just like, and I took that personally.
You're not wrong.
And in general, we've been asked this one a couple of times last week as well, so I think that's mostly reiterating our thoughts there.
Yeah.
Pity is cool, but I don't think it changes a lot of people's rolling plans per se. It just, like I said, it puts a backstop on your plans. You know what the cap is now. I'm kind of... I don't want to distract too much. We only got a couple of these left, and it's not like we're going super long on time. We haven't even quite hit an hour yet. We've had a lot of discussion in our Discord about the pity rate, obviously, since it was announced, last weekend. I would not be shocked if, much like going the lucky bags to half off price, 15 paid quartz only, I would not be surprised if occasionally for, like, special... Getting a little hiccupy. For special banners or occasions, they, like, reduce the number of summons, maybe? Like, imagine if they halved it or they reduced it by, like, 1/3, so it was, like, instead of 330, it was, like, 220 or something like that, or it was about 500 Saint Quartz worth of summons. I could see that as, like, a limited time offer to try and, like, get people into the FOMO of buying it, but we'll see. I do not suspect that FGO is going to have problems making money in the future and will try some moves which might technically make them less money per customer, but get more customers involved. Because honestly, there's a lot that goes on in the power of small collective action rather than just giant whale action. Like, I don't know what FGO's profit numbers are every GSSR, but I suspect even at putting it at 15 paid Saint Quartz, they probably more than make up the difference in just getting people to actually buy Saint Quartz, Sorry, I'm a little... I may actually take an opportunity while this episode is editing to vacuum my floor.
I should probably
get
a good on. God, I hate this cough. I really do.
It do be like that.
Like, even though my chest infection has passed, they said that I'll be coughing just coughing for no discernible reason for like the next like few weeks. I'm just all like, I hate this.
Yeah, your tissues are inflamed or irritated, and you probably got a lot of mucus left over. You gotta get rid of. Coughs are like that. They have a very long tail.
Okay.
That one. Tress left.
Tres. So this next one comes from King of Apples, who's just using all the white cubes to level bookshelves. I mean, fair. I think I use them every once in a while, but mostly I'm just holding on to them. For an emergency. Question. If when you talk about fate-related concepts / tropes with someone who doesn't know anything about the franchise, what is the topic most consistently misunderstood? Most misunderstood.
I mean, I don't really necessarily, like, talk to randos who aren't people I know anyway, which usually, by extension, means that they are aware of the show that we do. But hearing other people talk about Fate on the internet, the main things I hear about and see, like, memes about is the gender bending thing. A lot of people misunderstand why that happens. And to be fair, there are certainly, there are games that are based around the moe anthropomorphization tropes. The you take the thing and you make it a cute girl. Like, say, an Azure Lane or Cancel back in the day kind of a thing. So there are a lot of jokes about, gender flipping in Fate. And the many, many gags we can make there that people will talk about without necessarily really getting into the nitty-gritty of why that has ever happened and why FGO kind of persists with doing that some of the time. I'm trying to think. Usually the other thing is just, I talked about this earlier, a lot of people have, like, thoughts and feelings on gacha as a concept that are not really well-informed. Like, they just look at the idea that you spend currency to roll things and are just like, nah, that's, playing slot machines. That's not for me, fam. And I'm just like, you may be true, but also you don't necessarily understand why it is we do this thing. Then again, I've talked about it. I was doomed from an early age. I bought trading cards as a kid, so I understand the slick progress of popping that pack and flipping those cards.
Fresh card smell.
Yeah. And gacha games usually somehow manage to replicate this real-life effect even worse with, big flashy special effects when you do rolls sometimes.
Oh yeah, and then you get the effect that says you got something special and your fucking endorphins just go, ah!
Yeah, like opening a real-life card game pack, when you get a rare card that's usually, like, specially foiled or whatever, and you're like, whoa! Like, that's a surprise. Gacha games, a lot of this build up the anticipation. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, this is the same way. When you know you've got, like, a high rarity card in there, they give you, like, a rainbow background and big sparkles and stuff. They still have a surprise for the foiling, because cards can be quote-unquote foiled in the digital version, but still, it's like, you're like, ooh, rainbow pack, we're gonna get the stuff. It's got a good card in it, yay. What's it gonna be? Gacha can do that the same way, though both you and I and many people in our audience have lamented that FGO is not consistent with what animations it plays when. Sometimes you get rainbows, sometimes you don't. I think my last rainbow was technically Himiko, but I've had some very, like, low energy pulls as well. But yeah, like, generally, I feel like a lot of people criticize the gacha thing without even bothering to understand, like, why people get it. Like, yes, I understand, like, parts of this economy, and some games definitely feel like they're trying to prey on people with gambling addictions. I don't think I have a gambling addiction. There's lots of stuff I don't do. I am very respectful for my budget. I've actually skipped buying some cardboard crack releases recently because I wasn't super excited about them, and they can get kind of expensive, and I've got lots of other shit I want to buy this, holiday season. Stairs at Callisto Protocol comes out 2nd of next month, and then Crisis Core is, like, 2 weeks into December. It appeals to those people, but there is just something about this kind of, randomized pull process that's very, very, very flashy, very, very tactically pleasing, and I don't. The reason why people do it is because they don't care if it has, like, a real money element to it, because the process is often interesting. And sometimes it's just depressing, but that's why we talk about shit like pull rates and pity. But when it works, baby, it works.
It works. It just works.
Lucky, I am also going to assume that you probably don't discuss Fate with a lot of people who don't already know what it is.
You would assume wrong. I actually talk to a lot of people. Remember, I have a work where I have to go outside and talk to people.
Well, that's true. But I was wondering if you would talk about the context of this. I guess, I don't know, if you mention the show to people, that would require some context.
Yeah, no, well, like I said, like, anime and video games isn't my big thing, and I usually preface my conversation. Yeah, one of the big things I'm into is Fate, which usually prompts, what's Fate? And then, I usually give a light description, which is like, oh, it's just like this, it's just this big, tournament battle between, like, 7 people from, from history, and if they ask more, then I get into more details. They usually don't ask for more details, usually, if they're not actually interested. Sometimes people who like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, and I'll talk back and forth, and sometimes I'll ask for recommendations and whatnot. But I think the thing I try to actually avoid doing is actually explaining Fate too deeply.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. If you if you take someone who doesn't know Fate and you try to explain the entirety of Fate at them, especially from the right off, you are going to completely and utterly lose them. Like, every time. Like,
I think the high level you talked about, like, just even explaining the Holy Grail War of Fate Stay Night as, yeah, just imagine it's like a battle royale with historical figures.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that case, then, do you run into some of those people who are like, oh, I've heard of that, who have misconceptions? Or things they don't really follow?
I don't know if I'm going to say misconceptions. I have gotten, like, texts from people who, like, I recommend this stuff to them, they want me to explain something. But I don't think I've ever really had someone, go through it and come to me, like, with a completely wrong idea. Maybe it's the circles.
Yeah, you're not. It might be the circles thing. You're not hitting a lot of weird pop cultural osmosis.
Yeah.
I think that means I phrased my point right, but I was technically correct in my intent, which is you probably don't run into a lot of people who have some kind of weird osmosis opinion about Fate you need to explain to them.
No, like, I remember, last person I talked to about Fate, I was working them through the series, and they watched Fate Zero and then Case Files, and they were asking, like, questions about, other characters and stuff. They were gushing over Waver and being like, fuck Gilgamesh, and, all that kind of... Damn it, I'm trying to modulate my voice so I don't cough, and it's not working. Fuck. But it's those things of, like, when I try to explain something, I know I'm sometimes not the best at it, but I try to explain things in, like, very simple ways, and then just layer on the complexity as we go and build that foundation. Because if you, like, I can't remember where I read this. I probably have read it in multiple things, but, like, if you can't take your subject and be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't actually understand your subject that well.
Yeah, it's a, like, classic internet format thing.
Yeah.
Explain like I'm 5.
Yeah, so that's how I treat Fate when I'm explaining. I usually keep it with very simple concepts, and then as they ask questions, I keep giving, as simple answers as I can until we build up, and usually that prevents a lot of misconceptions. Usually. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think anyone's actually asked me. It's all like, why is this person a girl? I think most people I've seen just roll with it. Yeah.
It's definitely the kind of thing where I think you see more of these misconceptions in generic internet circles, like on a Twitter or a Reddit or something. I'll definitely admit, like, I don't, I've got family, quite a large family, and lots of family friends. They will occasionally ask about what I do because they are very bamboozled about how I stay alive and, buy things. I think I'm still the only person in my family who owns a PS5. Though part of that is thanks to you lovely people keep me on the ups with the dates and stuff. The drops. But, like, generally when they ask what I do, I just explain, our podcast is about a phone game that has a lot of, seasonal event content to keep people coming back, so there's always news and updates. And then people don't really ask further questions. They're not really interested in what exactly the game is about. It just exists. Yeah, that's the thing I probably don't follow. There's a lot of internet content creators who do stuff, whether to be funny or to be shitty, and then a lot of the broader audience doesn't understand why they have that take, so they just kind of uncritically take it on their own. There's definitely a lot of jokes about Fate. I don't see it so much anymore, but I remember back when FGO was first coming out, there were a lot of people who made jokes about the fact that, the original media was an eroge.
I still make jokes about that.
Well, yeah. We can make jokes because we're in it, but, like, a lot of people would still gag about the Fate series, like, oh, the Fate series, wasn't that porn? Yes, but the porn parts were pretty bad, so we don't really think about them anymore. Hey, guess what? There's a reason why that was the part that has, like, been mostly dropped. That was not the reason why people liked Fate Stay Night.
No, they just like existential dread and depression.
That's just very good at weird, depressing character tropes and cool action scenes. Again, I'll put another call to action to the people at home. If you're listening to this episode, go on our YouTube and clack away. Are there any, things you run into with people, whether in person or on the internet, where people don't know a lot about Fate and maybe pick up some weird things? Let us know.
All right. Center thyself. All right, so let us move on. This next one comes from Herald of the Pink Bean. They say, "Evening, gentlemen. What is your favorite salad dressing? Back home, my local Costco carried a miso dressing that I really like. May Ibuki appreciate your thanks." You have a miso dressing? I'm gonna try that shit. Sounds delish. How fucking dare. I just went to Costco last week in Crystal Starlight. Don't at me.
Rip. This should shock nobody at home. I'm not really a big salad guy. Crunchy leafy greens is not really my speed. Fruits are cool, but that's... A fruit salad exists, but you don't really dress that. That said, I do have, I think it's been a while, but I have some fond memories of, a little bit of the classic ranch with, like, a piece of celery, a carrot, that kind of stuff. I know that's very basic bitch, but, I've lived my life on a lot of basic bitch tastes I've only shaken out of slowly over time.
Me, mostly right now, I've been a fan of balsamic vinaigrette.
It's a pretty standard one, yeah.
Yeah. Like, nothing too fancy, but, yeah. And unlike a mega, I actually do like salads. I've actually been trying to eat more of them in my life. Only problem is usually I have a hard time finding a salad that I actually like. Usually there's something fucking weird about it, like the salad itself would be too wet. I'm like, all right, I've just picked up this fucking piece of lettuce. Why is it dripping water? Stop that. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Is there's a perfectly balanced salad for me waiting out there, and I've just never seen it.
Yeah,
it's probably true, but that's how a lot of food is.
Yeah, no, like I've gotten into the habit now that, like, when my friend inevitably wears me down and I cave and I go to a buffet, like, my first plate's always just huge ass salad. I'm like, I'm gonna fill up on fucking greens right the fuck now. I know I paid like $20 to get in this goddamn buffet, but I'm not gonna go eat like 3 plates of pizza.
You must beware the buffet.
Yeah, we found a really nice. Well, it's not really nice. It's a buffet. But we found a pretty decent one. Yeah, the Harvest. And my friend keeps wanting to go there, and I keep telling him, no, man, I'm trying to lose weight. He's like, oh, okay. And then, like, 3 days later, hey, you want to go to the Harvest? I'm like,
I do, but also.
That's my problem right now. It's like, I'm trying to lose weight, and my friend keeps like, hey, you want to go out to eat? You want to go get some steak? I'm like, why do you do this? I literally believe he cannot remember that I'm trying to lose weight. It's like, ugh. But that's enough of that. Let us
move it along.
The last one. This last one comes from Procrastinator, and they say, vibe.
Vibe. Is this what the kids call a vibe check? Gifts you can hear.
I just love that there's just that girl just in, like, exposed belly in the back just going at, and this dude's just all like, I got no time for this.
Yeah.
I gotta get on.
He's got a vibe. He's got a jam.
It's great.
Actually, I wonder, is this from one of the old Disney nightclubs? Might be. Disney theme parks have a long history with dance for kids. It's weird. It's like one of the earlier Defunct Land videos. You guys should go watch that one, and then go watch the one where he breaks down the history of the 4-note Disney Channel, like, Stinger theme. There's a lot of history and artsmanship in sound identity that some of you may not realize. Okay. Alright, we have cleared mailbag.
It's gone, yeet!
We have also cleared an hour of the show, roughly.
Only an hour?
Well, it's more like an hour 20, but we're over the hour limit.
Oh.
It's hour 17:26, but, that'll probably compress down to about an hour, editing out, pauses and stuff. Depending on how loud they were, I might catch some of your coughs in my audio filtration, noise cancellation.
I apologize in advance.
My dark audio science. Don't worry about me. You're talking about that 80% rule? I gotta be like that with audio edits sometimes. Sometimes we've got a lot of, like, breathing, huffing, puffing, other, weird sounds, and I'm like, no, I must scrub every inch of audio. No, dude, we recorded for like 4 hours. Stop it, me. Get over it. It's okay. Just try and minimize the sound Dallas makes when he slams forks everywhere.
I'm actually gonna yell at him next time he does that.
I assume it's because his hands are too full of forks for him to push the button where he mutes his microphone, but I don't know. I need to figure out Dallas a proper, like, polar microphone so he stops getting weird background sounds. because he's quiet when he talks into his mic. But if something happens in his room, God help you.
All right, but since we are at this point, do you think it's a good time to take a quick break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and I'm going to let everybody know when we come back, that will be the general spoiler zone for Heian-kyo. We're going to start talking about it. Maybe not, like, skip right to the end right away, but we're going to open up the conversation. So if you want to be, completely blind, protect your virgin ears. I almost said blind there. You should check out now and come back later. Trust us, it won't take you a long time. The pause is on.
It's undone.
Also, technically, this week we should be doing Fanservant Friday, but we'll see how long this part takes, because I do have to, edit it and put it out. We are getting started a little bit later, as we did all of our Black Friday shopping. Well, that's pretty powerful. Somebody in Patreon chat is like, can they finish the last 4 chapters, or will they be spoiled? I don't know. There's some dialogue tail end on there, but we'll see them when we get there. So, originally, when talking about Lost Belt 5.5, the night of, because thanks to the power of time zones, it wasn't actually that super late when we got started. I tried to keep some notes about some of the stuff, in the style we adopted for the first parts, the 2 parts of Lost Belt 5. But then, very quickly, I stopped doing that for the need of speed. And honestly, I think, both of us are already done. And we can say that in general, you can feel this one is shorter.
Yes.
While there's still lots of cool stuff in it, and like it hits a lot of the satisfying story arc elements, it is the shortest Lost Belt by far, and honestly has been shorter than some Singularity stories even. It might even be shorter than quite a few EOR stories. It's whatchamacallit, 16 segments long. With the prologue, technically, though that's not directly related to the plot. So yeah, it's very direct. Overall, I like this one. It's got a lot of themes and stuff that I do like, but it's very fast paced. You move through a lot of stuff very repeatedly. So the prologue is interesting because this does kind of set our tone. Right after Lost Belt 5 ends, we've cleared Olympus, we return back to base, so we can kind of, as usual for a lot of story releases, talk about the stuff that happened and kind of set up our plot, right? So learn some good facts. 5.5 is set basically immediately after Lost Belt 5 concludes. Like, literally, the prologue is right after, and then I think it's only, like, a day or 2 later by the time we actually do the event storyline here. There's also some interesting information on the interactions with the foreign god. Thanks to observation and other nonsense, we figure out that the foreign god appears to be confined to South America, basically moved to the South American Lost Belt and hasn't done anything else since then. And it's, pretty explicitly theorized this is because of whatever Wodaime did. Inhibited it from moving. And also, power scaling explained that, the foreign god in manifesting with the spirit origin of Beast 7 is nearly as strong as Gatia, but not quite as strong. And so we couldn't scratch her if we tried. We do not require the materials to work on this because we could only beat up Gatia because very specific things happened.
As you do in Fate.
Yeah. The question also comes up of could we just use the Black Barrel, and we do actually get some breakdown of the mechanics here, which is pretty good for the lore. Explains that the Black Barrel can only measure longevity as understood by creatures of the Earth. So aliens that don't play by our rules are excluded. Obviously, the creatures and things we have, shot with the Black Barrel leveling there, were the Olympians who explicitly were in the context of Earth. Creatures shot with the Black Barrel and stuff in, like, Angel Notes, are types, ultimate ones of planets that are in the same solar system as Earth, so you can at least compare their longevity, to the lengths of the solar system and so on. For aliens that are, like, completely from outside our solar system, it's just not really working. Additionally, the foreign god can manipulate cosmic mechanics. They talk about, the black hole she creates and how that's, like, directly futzing with the underlying mechanics of the universe, not just the Earth. So they're operating on a scale of, cosmic entities. We can't really calculate their lifespan in normal methods. I compared this conversation to Kardashev scale type conversations. For those of you who don't know, The Kardashev scale is a hypothetical scale of civilizations. It was developed by a Soviet scientist in the 60s, I think. Might have been the 70s. But in a lot of early spaceflight stuff. And basically, his name was Kardashev, by the way. The idea basically goes there are 3 types of civilizations in terms of energy harnessing. A Kardashev Type 1 civilization uses 100% of the energy output of their planet, or put another way, utilizes 100% of the energy from their star that reaches their home planet. We're still a couple of orders of magnitude away from this one, by the way, in real life. A Type 2 civilization uses 100% of the energy output of their home star through like a Dyson sphere or Matryoshka brain or something. And then a hypothetical Kardashev Type 3 civilization uses all of the available energy resources in a galaxy. So, as you can see, the scales go up very high, but in lots of, like, hypothetical discussion of you know, life or sci-fi tropes, you see these referenced a lot. Sometimes there are also subscales, like Type 0, you know, to cover where we're at right now, where we're not quite at a whole 100% of a planet. But basically, the foreign god is a cosmic scale entity that is, as far as we know, even though it is manifested with the spirit origin of Beast 7, there is so much about it we do not understand that we cannot apply our normal rules to. So we can't just shoot it with the black barrel.
No.
Good to know. Scratch that off our bucket list.
Now we know.
Since there's nothing we can do, and it's trapped in Lost Belt 7, we don't need to freak out or do anything right away. Sion is like, the world will not explode tonight. Go to bed. And then we get called the next day, and Sion's like, my mistake. The world might explode.
You're just like, yeah, damn it.
Also, Gordolf still doesn't have an office. Personally, I would just chill on the storm border, you know. That's probably got a great wardroom. But anyway, he wants an office. Yeah, that was implied by the Kyrie conversation that it wanted to move, but we won't see where that actually goes until we get there. There's a lot of good conversation about beasts we'll come back to later, so there might be some interesting implications to the using of Beast 7. But, you know, we talk a lot about planetary scale entities, so we are still not yet at a danger level where we are over, over Gatia, technically. Obviously, we had to, you know, sacrifice a lot and work our asses off to beat Gatia, but, you know, we haven't quite hit the escalation on the sequel. This one's just more of a puzzle we got to figure out. We'll see if they actually capitalize on all of that. Also, Area 51 does come up in this prologue. They do explicitly mention that it seems like the influence of the foreign god, when it actually, like, started spreading the world, started from Area 51, and that happened before we bleached everywhere. A lot of fun stuff. But now we get into the actual Heian-kyo story. So, we've got a singularity belt.
A little weird.
Yeah. You guys, everybody should know this if they're getting into it, but especially if you've completed it. You know, they even say it in the release where they're like, hey, you don't have to clear Shimosa to get here. There's gonna be some Shimosa spoilers. 5.5 really is like a callback to Shimosa thematically, so I think that's even why they talk about it being, you know, a singularity first. But there's also some weird lost beltishness that we explicitly need to worry about. And there's a lot of explanation about how sending servants to singularities. Well, yeah, Shimosa was a baby lost belt. This comes back later in the story. This is something we talked about before, where Shimosa was very, very plot relevant. Not only was Limbo there, but there were explicit mentions of the lost belt type system. But the fact that was a singularity that could become a lost belt type situation was also, like, very explicitly brought up here as a comparison. We do a lot of recapping of why we want to punch Limbo. But also in that, we basically understand where it's happening. It's happening in the Heian capital, which is just called Kyo, the capital city. Eventually would be known as Kyoto, but is not yet. Right around, the year 1000. There's a lot of weird vibes going on. And everybody gets those heebie-jeebies that Limbo is involved, because we know he got away. And they explain, like I said before, how sending servants on singularities work. It requires, like, strong connections and lots of verifiable intel. When we were actually repairing the 7 great singularities, the original Grand Order mission, we could not do that because those were very complex and bullshit. we could send some servants on pseudo singularities because those had less difference levels we had to worry about. Though obviously, in a lot of cases, there were interference with. For instance, they talked about how in Shinjuku we were supposed to get servants sent with us, but there were some blockages. But explicitly in other cases, we did have servants with us, like Agartha and Salem. So, Heian-kyo is constructed so that the only servants we can race shift with us are the specifically invited Fuma Kotaro and Kato Danzo. And then it doesn't even matter, because only Danzo gets sent with us. Even Mash is left at home, which kind of adds to the EOR callbacks as well.
Yes.
And honestly, in general, this is a later plot point, but it's not too much later, so it's not too much of a spoiler if you're following kind of beat by beat. We're basically without conversation with home base through like almost all of this arc.
Yes.
We get one exposition moment where we can have our usual, communications roundtable with everybody, and Sherlock is actually there to drop straight facts on us. He even gets so far as giving a early definite conclusion. He's like, it's definitely Limbo, and we're like, Holmes, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, no, it's that fucking obvious, guys. It's definitely Limbo.
I mean, if I remember correctly, he literally put his name in the errors or something.
Yeah, no, he's like, this is a note I had much later. Doman is a classical villain. Like, he signs everything, he lets you know it's him, he monologues about his plan, later he deliberately leaves witnesses so he can monologue about his plan. But also, he's very squelchy, please stop.
There's a lot of black scenes where you just hear
he's
body
squishing around.
Yeah.
Very gross.
Very.
But yeah, but before Sherlock can actually, like, explain more, Doman just dials up the jamming and we get cut off, and we don't speak to Chaldea until the end of the scenario. So, they do a lot with this scenario to kind of make you, especially early on, to make you feel kind of alone and isolated, and then, like, building up your allies in this time period. Like, before we race shift, we have a conversation with Caldea's Kentoki where he's like, oh, fuck yeah, I can't wait to go back with you, boss. We're gonna have a golden time. We're gonna meet me. I get to high-five myself. And then Da Vinci is like, no, actually, you can't go. And then he's like, not golden. That's okay, just meet me and high-five me. I'm sure we'll be friends. Golden. It turns out he was right about everything.
He was so right. He literally, I think he says he can't go, but like the thing he has to do is he has to find him and Raiko, because he just says straight out, they'll believe you.
Yes. Genji stuff is crazy enough, we'll believe you. Also, Kentoki didn't phrase it this way because he wouldn't, but Kentoki understands that he himself, Kentoki, is enough of a himbo that he's just going to go with it. This arc, it has a lot of big himbo energy for past Kentoki.
It really... Well, like, if we're talking about Kentoki, like, I feel like this, believe it or not, like, I really feel like Kentoki is the main character of this entire thing and not the master.
I mean, he really is, because it's about, he is the central character arc. We don't really go through any changes in this story. We do have some kind of moments of connection with Kentoki, talking about kind of like the weight of fighting for things and fighting people and doing heroism. But like, we don't really question our motivations. Like, there's no hesitation when people ask you like, hey, what are you doing here, kid? What's your story? You're just like, I'm fighting to take back my world. Like just all you can say. It's true.
Like, there's even one point at the end where they're talking about the fight, and it's like, you talk about like, I really liked it here, and it's like, and you're like, why? Because like, I didn't have to hold anything back. It's just like,
yeah. No,
I was just here. I did my fucking thing.
Yeah. And I think that's why this one is pitched as a singularity. It's a deliberate throwback, and thematically it is that. We get to be time cops again. There is a bad timeline. There's one guy fucking it up with one thing, and he summons some extra guys to fuck it up, But, like, it's very simple. And we can get into the discussion of because, there's some early bits. We run into new enemies, the Tsuchigumos, who are out causing trouble in our neighborhood, kind of a thing. We get some early character building with Danzo. We ran into Suna very early, and I think there's a lot to talk about him, because this does a lot of work to kind of pitch him as a character, right?
Right.
Which it does not do with the other two Heavenly Kings. They are very explicitly written out of the story.
Well, if I remember correctly, there's not a lot on the other two Heavenly Kings.
Yeah, and that was the thing I was going to say. Sakata Kintoki has a lot of mythology around him, especially with the Kintaro stuff. As a character points out later, I'll avoid naming them right away off the top, just in case people want to pull that ejection lever. But as several characters, I think, actually bring up later, those legends don't get applied to Sakata Kintoki until like the Edo period later. So Heian Kintoki's not entirely sure what people are talking about with that, but those legends do get applied to him, so he gets a greater mythology. And is a part of like the legends about Raiko. And same with Watanabe no Suna, like he has his own individual legends about his confrontation with Ibaraki on the bridge and stuff, you know, which we actually get to see very early on. You know, we get that one of those fights on the bridge where Ibaraki loses an arm. But also we see Medea Lily there, so we know that shit's not like quite right, you know? Mm-hmm. But the other two, 4 Heavenly Kings are mostly just footnotes. We have their names. Their names are given. One of them is Urabe, I think, and I can't remember the fourth one. We know that they exist, and they are part of the story, but in history, they are not really well fleshed out. I think I talked about this when Heian-kyo was coming out. It's kind of like Shuten's other Oni buddies. We do at least see them named, and they kind of show up, but they don't have any characterization, right? Like, technically, Hoshikuma Doji is in this story, which is, you know, obviously very interesting because Hoshikuma or Hoshiguma is, you know, there's a character somewhat based on those legends in Arknights, and I even ended up using that for one of the characters that shows up in the Fate AP homebrew that is on our channel. One of our player character masters got Hoshikuma, but as characters in this story, Hoshikuma, Torikuma, etc., some of the other guys, like, are basically non-entities. Shuten and Ibaraki address them by name, but they don't even have, like, unique sprites. They just reuse the a slightly recolored Oni King sprite from Oniland, and they have, like, no dialogue. They don't even have story sprites, which I found kind of interesting, right? I want to say here, this, for as short as it is, this Lost Belt story, this scenario, has a lot of extra pizzazz. Once again, the production values are really stepped up. Obviously, we knew that with Lost Belt 5, both parts, but this continues that trend, and even in non-big, like, cutscene parts, there are a lot of extra special effects in this, right? Right. So the fact that the Onis are just stomp sound, you know, stock stomp and roar sound effects is kind of weird. It didn't really suck me out, but it was definitely something that I noticed.
They might not have had actually a good idea of what they wanted to do with them, honestly.
Yeah, or it might just be, like, for framing that, like, drawing those giant sprites again would just not work. But yeah, that the other Heavenly Kings are very similar, so we kind of skip them. But those other guys are pretty important. So, technically this is skipping over some stuff, but I think it's important to discuss. We are pitched very early in this that there is a Grail War thing happening here. It is explicitly shown, and it is, you know, pitched by an alleged letter by Abe no Seimei, who is mysteriously absent from the city.
Which is very weird. Yes.
This thing called the Imperial Holy Grail War, obviously kind of a callback to the Guda Guda Imperial Grail Wars as well. You know, the couple of variations they've done of that over the years, including the FGO event. But this one, the Heian Imperial Grail War, is very interesting because it says that the master candidates will be picked from those with power. Kind of curious. And explicitly, only casters will be summoned. 7 foreign sorcerers, this is pitched to Lord Fujiwara no Michinaga.
The little shit.
Yeah. We know he's a gremlin. He's in here. He has big feudal lord energy. He is currently Minister of the Left.
I do appreciate they gave him an actual sprite, though.
Yes, no, he is not like a reused character. He is a storyline character. I don't think there's a lot of demand to de-NPC him, as it were. But it is good because he is not a minor character in this. Like, you think he might just be in flashbacks, but no. He comes up several times throughout the story. And it's good that he has a story sprite we can kind of bounce off of. That fits. It actually, you know, slots into a lot of the other character arts we see. Though I joked about this earlier. Once again, that production level stuff. Tsuna has multiple story sprites. You know, he's got his standard sprite, but then also a front-facing sprite for when he draws his sword, We constantly play the sword drawing and sword sheathing sound effect. It's cool. I like it, but also I noticed. I noticed that we really like those things and we want to use them. That's the programming team is like, ooh, we have assets. We're going to use those.
And just...
Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me.
But, Michinaga is pitched that this will involve the lives of 7 foreign casters who will be summoned from across time. They will be the only ones sacrificed. The winning master will get his wish granted, though how is not explained. And also this will ensure that the city of Kyo will have 1,000 years of peace.
I really like that 1,000 year peace idea.
Yes. Well, and it does work thematically, because it's specifically the year 1028, I think. Now, while obviously we're not into the future, it's not, and even when this was written, this was 2 years ago, it was not, 2028. But Kentoki does actually bring this up later. He can be shockingly perceptive when he does. When you describe that you're from way in the future, you may have actually brought up, like, how far in the future. And you, the protagonist, are canonically from Japan about 1,000 years in the future. So, while those weren't 1,000 years of peace, Kentoki has an argument like, well, if you're here and you're from Japan and you're like from 1,000 years in the future, I guess we kind of don't need to worry about it because Japan's obviously still here, right? Right. Yes. Good, Kentoki. Thumbs up. You figured that out all by yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion in this chapter of the kind of the sub-theme of legacy and longevity, right? Michinaga really wants to secure that 1,000 years of peace, a lot of our, a decent number of our Genji characters are kind of concerned about actually, like, how long our clan will last and making sure to leave a legacy and how, we'll be perceived and helping people. Kentoki's also kind of trying to, like, figure out, like, what his deal is, and what his legacy is going to be, kind of, trying to find his heroism.
Yeah, there is a particular character, I guess I can fucking say it.
Go for it.
Babbage's whole deal.
Yes.
With man talking about how the world that he wanted to create and the expectations of that. I love the speech where he talks about encase your dreams in steel.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, that was so good.
General vibes from this chapter is Babbage the real G here.
He really is.
As much as this chapter is a remix of Shimosa, it is also a heavy remix of London. This is kind of their opportunity to reuse a couple of the London characters. And obviously, Medea Lily also comes back, so it's a little bit of Okeanos as well. But a lot of London characters are in this, and we get to kind of see them in different lights. Babbage ends up being an antagonist, sort of. He is a obstacle we have to overcome. But he is still, like, much more positive than the kind of rando phase he was in London, where he just makes infinite helter-skelters to fuck with us, Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of comment about, like, your ideals, your dreams, your legacy kind of thing. What do you want to see? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very weird, fucked up Grail War. As we are introduced, 2 of the 7 casters are already defeated. They were mastered by the other 2 Heavenly Kings, who are injured now. I know I've seen a couple of people in and about our Discord kind of wondering about, okay, why did we job 2 of the 7 characters beforehand? Some of this is to hype Suna up as an antagonist, because as we start, he is kind of our early opponent. We run into him right away, and so the fact that he's already taken out two pairs, it makes him seem stronger, but also I think gives you kind of the idea about, like, he's kind of lost his focus a little. He has not lost his way. The reverse of don't lose your way, because the other 2 masters who he injured and are taken out of the story by healing were the other Heavenly Kings. So, like, I felt that kind of gave us the impression of, like, oh, Watanabe no Suna is a little, like, he's really into this for some reason. He's kind of losing his focus a little bit in this Grail War shit, right?
Well, we talked about this earlier, but Suna, I feel, is, like, overly work focused, and he's like, I'm really sold on that 1,000 years of peace, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm really sold.
And he has his own personal motivations, but the way he pitches it to, like, Kentoki, he's like, my guy, we have been directly ordered by the Minister of the Left to do the thing, so I'm gonna do the thing. Like, that. This is our mission. I'm go for it. So yeah, like, I don't mind it so much. Some of it was also a time constraint thing, though. Yes, they actually explained it some later in interviews, and I'll drop this because it's a pseudo spoiler, but I'll let you guys know. I believe the character that was name-dropped in a interview was that they had gotten to the part where they were even designing an appearance for the Count of Cagliostro. I presume this is the servant that was mentioned later as the really interesting one, the one who could have gone far and actually been a good character in a Grail War. But obviously, for just writing and time constraints, they decided to just cut this character out entirely. So I believe that means that Count of Cagliostro has a design and has, plot stuff. It just hasn't come up yet. So we'll see if they decide to pull the trigger on that one. We know that sometimes these deep lore bits get really buried. As seen by the fact that, Dress of Heaven, Iris Veal has a line for Rasputin. We would not pull a trigger on that for years. But it came back. But yeah, I do think with stuff that comes out later, the fact that it's supposed to be the 7 is important. One, it's an obvious parody of the Grail War, which, of course, Doman would do this, right? Of course he would make it weird.
I mean, the first rule about a Holy Grail War is it can't be a normal Holy Grail War.
Right. There's always some bullshit, so the fact that it was 7, but they're all casters is yes, and yeah, we removed a couple of the characters for jobbing because we didn't really have characters for the other 2 Heavenly Kings, and we couldn't make another new servant when we had other new servants to do. I do feel kind of sad that, time makes fools of us all kind of a thing, but, because, we can spoil this bit a little. Ibuki as a character, Ibuki Doji, is very minimal. She is the subject of, one chapter, one section of the story out of 16, and then is mostly gone. There's a little bit of payoff.
I want to say that about Kagekyo as well.
Yes.
They have a little bit more interaction because,
Kagekyo comes up in 2 sections. And obviously there's baggage about Kagekyo's character design.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's another, very quick one and done. The fact that it is Taira no Kagekyo, the Genji killer, that's more of, a plot obstacle of, oh, shit, we've got all the Genji warriors on our side, but they won't help us at all versus this enemy. We've got to find something new, right?
Right.
It works to get Shuten and Ibaraki back in the story. Or Shuten, mostly.
Cause that's what I feel like Kagekyo was mostly to get Shuten. And you can't say there was a little bit about, Kintoki finding his ideals, but, I feel like they could have done that with almost anybody.
Yeah, literally any really strong character we could have done this. The fact that Ibuki Doji was a divine spirit was a big deal. I mean, I think thematically, them using the idea of the god of Mount Ibuki as, the Yamada no Orochi divided spirit thing, which is a little in, some of the backstory options for Shuten as a legend. But the fact that, they bring the Kusanagi back in the finale, yeah, that there aren't a lot of ways you could have did that, but it's still very much, literally in the postscript, there is a comment by Shuten and you who are oh, I wish you could have interacted more with Ibuki, but oh well, right?
Right.
Maybe that's a tap on the nose, a nod and a wink to the fact that maybe there was more text there planned, but they were oh shit, we're in COVID crunch times, we haven't had a major release in 2/3 of the year.
It's that's probably why it's so short, honestly. They probably have to cut a lot more than they're letting on.
Yeah. I think the product is very focused, and I think they must have made a decision probably pretty late in being no, we want to make sure we get this out before the year ends because we've got big stuff coming. We need to, pare this down and tighten this up right the fuck now. And they were not afraid to take the cut to it. And as a writer, you should not be afraid to do that editing ratchet. I do definitely feel like you can see the points where you're I feel like we compressed some stuff here,
If there was cut Tamamo content, I'm gonna be very upset.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. That doesn't feel like a cut thing. That feels like a cameo nod. That feels like we need to address that this is the time and the place when the thing happens,
Mm-hmm.
It would be like if we went to, I'm trying to think what would be the other area equivalent. I guess it would be if we went to Greece in the middle of the Trojan War and we never saw Achilles or Odysseus somehow, right? Even if they're not main characters, they're here. They should be doing the thing, We should see them.
Oh man, I know we just did Olympus, but having a fucking Troy lost Bellator event would be fucking sick.
Yeah, there's a lot there that we could get into, and there are a lot of characters from that time that might be fun to recontextualize sometime. Lisangle, take notes.
Take notes, please.
But yeah, and I wrote this down in my notes. There were some staff statements on this later. They absolutely planned more for some of these characters. Like, there was supposed to be a whole extra caster we would actually see, and they were just like, yeah, for like dev time purposes, we don't have enough time to like make this a fully fleshed out like boss fight and playable character and shit. So we're gonna cut him. I don't know when that process was started, because there's a lot of lead time on servants. It must have been fairly decently into the writing process where they were just like, oh, we're not going to get this done on time and on budget. We need to move some stuff around. The last third is very fast. I don't think any of it has problems, but there are definitely some characters who are abbreviated. The characters we do get, though, are pretty good. It's similar to, in this storyline with Tamo, it's very similar to the Sei Shonagon cameos. After the Babbage arc, she basically disappears, but it's still very much like, yeah, this is kind of sort of when she should be around. Thematically, it works, and, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
I'm pretty sure that the writing team had a fucking, team deathmatch over who they focused on between Murasaki Shikabu and, Sei Shonagon.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm assuming.
We ended up with Murasaki as the focus. I think they did pick her because this is already established in her characterization and in the kind of the backstory for the Genji Monogatari that she would have known Abe no Seimei and actually like studied, some of the supernatural stuff with him. Mm-hmm. And that works better for, plot stuff. It loops back in. Sei is great. I love her in this story.
It's actually interesting because she's supposed to be a lot older and they keep harping on that.
Yes. Kintoki's like, whoa, hey, shoot, it's been so long since I read that chapter.
Spring Chicken. You're no Spring Chicken.
No, I'm talking about what's her, the Spring Chicken line, but what's her alias now? Because she wants to punch us if we call her Sei Shonagon.
I can't remember.
I've managed to wrap my brain around the fact that we called, Murasaki Shikabu Karoko a lot. Fujiwara no Karoko. It was something like that. But like, yeah, Kintoki has that line where like, whoa, hey, you're no Spring Chicken anymore. And she's like, first of all, how dare you make a backwards assumption about my age? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Insert punk noises here.
Yes. Also, there's another point where she brings up like, hey, don't be talking about how old I am. I've put a lot of effort into looking this young. So they have an explanation for it. They explicitly use those extra Ascension sprites where they are very Japanese for both Murasaki and Sei, which works out very well.
I'm glad they put the dramatic, like, I know it's a little thing, but I'm glad they put the kimono dragging sound in there when they walked.
Yes. There were a lot of extra sound effects for them moving around with the drag and the, the subtle door stuff. Because the robes are, very big and long.
They had like 7 layer robes or something. I can't remember. Like,
lots of layers.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's a lot of good character stuff in here, but there's also some abbreviated stuff. So to kind of beat by beat it, we run into Tsuna and Medea Lily right away. We have to run because this is a thing that's established in the prologue. Heian era Japan is still mystical, right? Mystery has not left this place yet. So there's literally Onis and demons and Tsuchigumos running around, earth spiders, that humans have to beat up. So, like, on his own, Watanabe no Suna is still a big deal. He is a, mythic Oni-killing swordsman. But also he's backed up by Medea's Magecraft, which is, pretty baller. Again, to kind of show his early character issues, where like we get that he's really, really focused on this job, this work, to the respect that like it gets a little chaotic because even Kintoki calls him out on this really early, like, hey, brother Suna, aren't we supposed to be looking out for women and kids? What's going on here? But Suna has a very classic, funny misunderstanding where Medea is like, yes, this is one person and one servant, and does not specify the class because that doesn't come up. And only later does Suna realize, wait, hold on. The ninja lady is the servant, and you, the person casting spells, are a human.
The foreign-looking person casting spell, mind you.
Yes. Which is interesting, because I believe that line happens no matter what gender you are. The main character is canonically from Japan, you are dressed in one of your mystic codes. And I don't know canonically if we actually own any of our mystic codes that look like traditional Japanese clothing.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a scene where you actually flash over. You get like, I think it's when Murasaki is peeking on you. You do actually appear, and I do believe. For me, I was in the Arctic Warfare Mystic Code.
Yes, that would make sense. You should be in the because we haven't gotten the brand new one yet, so you're in the Lost Belt Classic one. So yeah, that would definitely look like foreign clothes. Because that's your current up-to-date combat mystic code. So then Suna is like, okay, I've made a misunderstanding, I'm gonna go. But also, Kentoki, I don't like how you're fighting with me. I'm gonna make you show me your hand next time we meet. Bye. Very classic samurai shit. I appreciate it. So yeah, Suna doesn't even realize, and several other characters don't even realize that servants come in classes, heroic spirits come in classes other than caster. Even Kentoki has to like run this over a couple of times. This is also where we get introduced to my favorite joke, my favorite recurring gag in this, where Kentoki remains convinced that you are his servant, you are his caster.
Listen, by the end of this, I'm convinced as well, okay?
I mean, thematically, it's true. Even if Abe no Seme is like, no, you weren't actually his, no, don't do that. This is dumb. Seme's letters are like, your servant is not Doman, your servant wasn't your master.
Nah, I have a fucking theory. I have a fan theory.
Go for it.
We're in a singularity. Note, we didn't get a single support servant from, the throne. But do you know what did happen? One dude, for some inexplicable reason, got command seals. No one knows why.
Yeah.
Because of those command seals, he might have made some decisions, made some actions.
Yeah. He was involved in the Grail War, even though he didn't have a servant. And so, yeah, it definitely, like, it could be a counterforce thing. It could just be an extra weird thing. We do know that there were extra command spells floating around. When Limbo appears, he has a line about using his... I think he talks about he had the 10 command spells as the administrator of the Holy Grail War.
Well, yeah,
so
that's what...
He basically put himself in the ruler slot. Kind of.
Well, there's always an administrator. It's like how Kyrie is the administrator in,
Yeah, right.
And then he has all the extra ones. I think they're all on his arms, though.
Oh, yeah. That shows up in Zero as well. Yes, there are extra command seals, and when you give up your command spells, if you want to, like, forfeit, you give them to the administrator. Yeah, so as the admin, he had the extra seals, so we know that there's some floating around. I kind of like how in the story there's no real explanation. Like, even at the end, again, spoilers for the ending, but Kentoki is still like, I'm still wondering where the fuck my servant was. I could have sworn it was you, but it's not. And I thought maybe it was Limbo, because he was the extra, but it's not. So what the fuck is going on?
Well, he's like that, but he makes his peace with it, because he just decides, like, even if you weren't my servant, you were my servant.
Yes. You were my boss.
God, I love how he just starts calling you boss halfway through. I'm all like, oh, so golden.
Yeah. And that's the other funny thing. You introduced this Kentoki to Golden.
And Morphing Hero.
Yes, and he's just like,
this is
golden.
amazing.
This is good.
Yes. No, this is golden.
Yeah.
You're just all like...
And you're like, now you're getting it. And again, shout out to Kentoki. Like, he runs into two people on the street. One who is, a quote-unquote a kid, I do like that they actually start having the dialogue where, like, at one point, like, it later Shuten offers you a drink, and your option can be, like, either no thanks or, like, I think I'm still a minor, depending on how you count time. So, like, we're starting to play a little with the age gap, but in terms of, like, maturity for our time, the player character definitely started out as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And you still have not been hardened by your time. Even though ostensibly some of these characters at different ages would have been, taking on these big positions as warriors or courtiers at an even younger age than you, but it's all about, relative maturity. And Danzo is obviously, a lady, even though she's a very deadly lady. And Kentoki, who says that we find out later he's run away from home.
Yep.
He's fled the Genji residence where Raiko was in. I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that it was because he got his seals, but, like, when he's introducing the concept, it sounds just like he got fed up with Raiko's Raiko-ness and had to go.
Listen, you can only take so much out before you're like, nope.
He had to roll out, and like he implies that he's just been drunk all day in an alley, but he's like, "You're running from something. Don't worry about it. Just tell me you need some help. I'm your man. I'm your guy. But also, if you don't need my help, tell me that too. I'll leave you alone." Like, damn. Raiko got Kentoki drinking his respect women and children juice. But yeah, we actually clear up the thing with Suna in a clever way that I liked, where the protagonist actually thinks and is like, "Hey, I know to solve this. Danzo, go to spirit form." And then Suna's like, "Wait, what?" And then Medea's like, "Oh, my bad. I didn't clarify. I'm sorry. I knew that one was the servant. You just didn't ask." He's like, talk to you later. Then we run into Sei Shonagon in a carriage, and this is a very interesting bit of dialogue, because like it's not super thematically important, but we do actually get into a little bit of like a lot of the courtesy and courtly attitudes the Heian period required, right?
Oh yeah.
So like Sei straight up says, "Yeah, there's no way I can take 2 weird guests, or 3 weird guests, in the middle of the night. I'm retired. I shouldn't be doing this shit." Especially when, X number of them is a dude. X because, again, the player character's gender is not fixed, but still. She's still like, yeah, that would be weird. I'm supposed to be retired. I shouldn't be having weird guests in the middle of the night. I know what you can do. I'm going to drop you off at a house. You tell them that you were sent by this person. They'll understand what's up. And that house turns out to be, Fujiwara no Karoko, Lady, Murasaki Shikabu. You give her the secret password. And I do like their interpretation. This is something we talked about both in Let's Talks, and also I brought this up in some of the Wanted stuff we've done. There is no actual guarantee that Sei Shonagon and Murasaki Shikabu actually spoke to each other like face-to-face, right?
No, they mostly knew each other through reputation in their works.
They were both known because they were artists and courtiers assigned to different important imperial women in the Emperor's household, but they were in different circles, so there's no actual guarantee that they actually interacted face to face. And so this is kind of that characterization where they know of each other, and obviously, they've read each other's works. And Sei even says she's a huge fan of the Tale of Genji, which is still mid writing at this point.
Yes.
Coming out basically episodically. But they know about each other, and there's some rivalry there, but also a lot of mutual respect. Like
Murasaki,
yeah, Murasaki seems almost like intimidated when you drop a line that implies that Sei Shonagon sent you, but also she's like, "Well, of course I must honor our, we're in the secret book club handshake, so I have to let you stay in my house." So yeah, we get to jam out with Kaoriko a lot.
House surfing at fucking Murasaki Shikabu's house.
Yeah.
Put that on a fucking resume.
Yeah. And it's a pretty good couch surf, too. Like, her servants and herself are really generous to us. We eat lots of food. We get fed well with proper rice. We get our own room. She was even going to prepare extra rooms, but you're like, nah, it's fine. I don't care, again, that there are there is a non-evenly spaced number of genders here. It's fine. I don't care. Yo, Kentoki, do you care? Nah. It's whatever. We're in the middle of the night. Yeah, there was at least one point where Kentoki is like, "Miss Danzo, you're dressed like an anime ninja. There's a lot of stuff I can see. Please don't get up in my face. I don't know nothing about that."
I think that's interesting now that you think about it, because I think most other people do treat Danzo just like she's kind of a puppet.
Yeah.
They really don't pay her any mind.
And some of that may have to do with seeing her in action. Like, I think Kentoki doesn't bring that up later, like, after she's popped off and popped back on an arm.
Yeah.
Like, and several times she yells out Fuma missile, so I'm sure she does her Macross missile barrage,
Hell yeah.
So, like, once you start to see some of that shit, you're probably like, okay, you are clearly not you talk like a person, you act like a person, so I'm not going to be, like, racist or anything, but also you are clearly mechanical, so I'm also not going to make my assumptions about you being humanoid either. But anyway, thanks to getting in contact with Karoko, we get to hatch our first plan to stop Limbo, because we know Limbo is responsible, even if he hasn't shown his face. Because this is where we have that conversation with Caldea we alluded to earlier. So, Da Vinci and Holmes fill you in on a lot of stuff. Mash and Fuma Kotaro apologize a lot, but you're like, nah, it's really fine. literal plot barriers, guys. Nothing you could do. But we concoct our first plan, which is we learn all the stuff about the Grail War and the setup. Abe no Seimei is not here, but he left a letter describing this ritual, and even Kentoki is like, yeah, that's sus. I, Kentoki, know nothing about lying, and I'm not good at the ways of the world. That's sus. That's sus.
Kentoki is very simple.
Yes.
At this point in his life.
Yeah. He's picking up some stuff. He's no longer, a literal wild mountain child either. But he is still kind of a backcountry boy. They even do this very well with his dialogue. It's a lot rougher, lots of contractions and stuff. And then there's a great shift in a scene we're going to talk about in a second, where he actually gets very formal. And I shout out to the translators and localizers. You did a great job doing that switch in dialogue without even the normal way that Japanese does that, with just different word levels. But yeah, so we figure our first best plan is we need to go to the palace and we need to eyeball Ashia Doman. Doman is second in charge of the Onmyoji Bureau, which was real, by the way.
Oh yeah, no.
No, they took the court astrologer position and lots of stuff very seriously. Obviously, Abe no Seimei was probably heavily fictionalized afterward. But no, well, he was a real guy who probably held that position.
Well, that's the thing. Like, back in the Heian period, like, with all, like, the noble factions fighting and stuff, a lot of people were afraid of people being, like, cursed or having grudges, spirits, and all that stuff. Yeah. So, it was a common thing to have Onmyoji come over and, place wards, do purifications, exorcisms, all that crazy stuff. So...
And of course, they also, in a practical sense, because again, the Heian was when we were at a lot of height of cribbing Chinese high culture as well. They also did a lot of stuff with, like, divination, astrology, geomancy, and stuff like that, organizing your space and picking times of things that would be auspicious and well-favored and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
also true.
Yeah, so there was plenty of both of those functions going around. So, yeah, we know that Ashia Doman is there, and we managed to get across to Kentoki pretty well that we're after this guy called Limbo, who, like, is Ashia Doman, but is not Doman. So the Doman we meet in the Imperial residence, the palace, might be him, but he might not, so we should go check. I'm not really sure what our plan was. If it was him, were we gonna, like, punch him right in the Imperial Palace? I don't know, but, it was a lead.
No, I think they were gonna fall back and then make a plan to go punch him.
Yeah, we were gonna figure it out. Or possibly we were just gonna, like, use the excuse of appearing before him before his plan is complete and make him, like, start monologuing. I don't know. Limbo does kind of feel like he'd fall for that.
Well, we couldn't expose him and fight him because you'd be then fighting in the Imperial Palace, which, as Omega's probably going to get to, is also kind of a pain to get to, so...
Yeah, we are literally only allowed when it is the off hours, like it's early in the morning when nobody is there, there's no, like, official assemblies or government functions or, like, open court being held for things to be, like, brought before the Emperor and his heirs and whatnot. We are explicitly told that the Emperor and his, primary wife are going to be in a different part of the palace while we're there. And that ideally, we will also not run into the Emperor's father-in-law and the Minister of the Left. We won't run into Michinaga. We do end up running into him anyway because it's more dramatic that way, but the plan was not to do that. And we're just going to look for Ashia Doman and try to bump into him. They do bring up a couple of times that it's very interesting that at night, the streets are awash in bad guys. Not just Tsuchigumo, but also, Oni sometimes slip through the barrier, stuff like that. And there's a lot of, evil spirits and grudges around, which we see represented as certain Shimoso-type enemies, the Black Samurai and the Ghosty Boys. So we get to the palace, we're looking around, we talk to some people. We do actually meet that Ashia Doman, and he seems nice, functional, normal. He still looks like a freak show, but, like, he's not, like, yes, let me suck out your entrails. He's like, oh, hello, visitor. You've got some grudges around you. Let me fix that for you real quick. And he, dispels the bad juju around you. So it's fairly obvious with you yourself there and with Donzo there that you're like, okay, that's not Limbo, as it were. That is regular-ass Ashia Doman. He seems okay. At the very least, he's not directly involved in this scheme. He kind of is, but kind of isn't still. It's a little bit of complexity when we get to the reveals later. But we do run into Michinaga, and like I said, there's some very interesting stuff here. where like Kintoki completely changes up his way of speaking to be more formal, and talks about the Minister of the Left and is like, "Sir, I believe that the Imperial Grail War is an evil plot." And shout out to Michinaga. He's kind of a Weasley-faced little guy, but he's also very pragmatic, right?
Well, that's what I think makes him Weasley. He hedges his bets.
Yes. He is a proper Politico, where he's like, well, 1,000 Years of Peace does sound pretty cool, but it would suck if we were sucked up by an evil villain's plot. And you are Sakata Kintoki, one of our elite Genji warriors. And you can't lie for shit, so...
Excuse me.
Alright, just give me some proof. Right now, you're just saying shit. I can't take you at your word. I can't do that. You got to find me some objective proof, or otherwise, get the Genji faction, get your warriors on board this, so we can call it off. Because it's a whole thing. So that gives us kind of our next setup for figuring stuff out. We got to locate other masters and see if we can get them to call it off. Because it is pretty clear. Again, we bring this up in the dialogue. No Holy Grail is explicitly called out. Nothing is explained how the winner is going to collect their wish. So, I think the Master and Danzo pretty easily figure it out, like, oh, this is a Grail War setup. Domon's got a big net. He's just catching all the extra heroic spirit juice that comes out. So if we get to 6 or 7, that's bad. That's when the bad thing happens. What is the bad thing? We don't fucking know, but it's bad.
He's not here for love and peace.
No. Like, that again, that's the beautiful thing about Domon being such a classic, like, unrepentant villain in that sense. You just know that his plan is bad. Like, we don't really need to question, like, how it's bad. We know that it's going to be bad if he gets his way.
Yeah.
So, we'll stop him. Tsuna appears again. We have a little bit of tension, but again, like we brought up with the Imperial Palace, that is so hard to get into and stuff. There's also no fighting there. You're not supposed to fight. I think the only reason why some of the characters had weapons was just because they're stuck to their story sprites, so we can't edit them out, So we once again get a reprieve from our showdown. And we move into after all that setup, we move into the Babbage arc. We talked about that earlier. The key thing here is that, Karoko was one of the masters. She is actively another master. We also, they aren't explicit that it's her diary right away, but you can quickly pick up. A lot of chapters in this section are introduced, and a couple of later ones are introduced.
As a diary entry?
Yeah. Explaining, like, the steel monster, Kintoki's appearance and stuff like that. Some other elements, later when Shuten makes her appearance on the scene, Oni slipping through the barrier that Abe no Seimei put up. Stuff like that. Very neat detail. Like it. Yeah.
I loved it, especially when it ended, like, most of the time it was just, a certain diary. And at the end, it's like it says Murasaki Shikabu's secret diary. And I'm just all like, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good shit.
Yeah, that's a real fun nod to, like, again, real life stuff, but also keeping us in tone to all the things.
Oh, yeah, because, again, like, Murasaki Shikabu is known for a few great things, but the biggest two is, one, the Tale of Genji, and, two, the Diaries of Murasaki Shikabu, which is our big window into Heian court life. So the fact that they doubled down on the diary, well, not necessarily doubled down, but they used the diary as a narrative device, I think was neat. It was a
recurring framing device that really worked for our setup.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's a whole thing. We meet Babbage. We are forced to fight Babbage, and I think this is where we really start to see that a lot of that production value stuff I was talking about. Like, obviously, we didn't talk about it all, but when you first opened your game after this Lost Belt came out, it fucking appears in an animation on your main screen. Yeah.
When you're just like, whoa.
It was so powerful, it crashed my phone the first time.
Really?
Yeah, no, the animation started to play and my phone froze and I had to reset. It was okay the second time. It was a little too much juice after the update. But yeah, no, so there's like and then it happens in reverse when the story is over, and they inform you, hey, if you want to get your free quests, go to main interlude.
I also like that after it does that, the next Lost Belt title becomes clear, and you're just like, oh.
Yes, and you're like, I see. Yeah, really good stuff. But, we go through the confrontation, we run into the Helter Skelters. It should be pretty obvious to anybody who's been following FGO's story that you're like, Helter Skelters are here, Babbage is here. We know what's up. And, there's a lot of really good dialogue building and stuff. We figured out what Karuko's wish was. She wants to just find a really good ending for her story because she's having writer's block issues because she is writing one of the seminal pieces of historical Japanese prose, and the people around her are kind of treating it that way. Like, everybody we run into who meets her is like, listen, love your stories, but, like, even Michinaga is like, hey, listen, love your work, but, if, there's rules in the Imperial Palace, y'all. So she's got a little bit of the writer's block. She's got that 80% problem we talked about. But she has a really good, bouncing off of Babbage in his kind of, special way. We do get some extra great Babbage dialogue. Talk about his weird club, and he's like, it's a hammer.
Like I said, I love, like, honestly, I think the Babbage arc is still one of my favorites, because this is when Kintoki really starts asking him what he wants in life, because, he looked upon Babbage, a foreign mage, and, heard about his dreams and his ideals, and Kintoki's just like, what the fuck do I want?
And Babbage even challenges him, because, like, after we win the first fight, we try to have a conversation because we're like, buddy, we don't actually want to fight because we need to stop this war, so if we actually start killing casters, that's bad. We want to make sure we keep a couple alive, at least. So we're trying to, solidify allies and break the system and stuff. But Suna shows up, so we're like, shit. We're pretty sure we can't beat him right now, and Babbage can't summon up enough force to really get him. Though he can give him a run for his money by activating his reality marble on the ley line, So he challenges Kintoki, and again, we get kind of a return of the deathmatch intros. It's not quite the same, but it is similar. I love the fucking shadow shots on the face, though.
Yeah, no, that was about to mention. That's the good shit.
Yeah. Like, we get extra animations. There's a lot of... I find it kind of interesting that none of the caster servants summoned seem to question the weird dialogue lines they've been fed. Oh gods laugh, oh sun shine. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Hold the phone. But yeah, we have another deathmatch.
Sure, it's the spell to summon the deathmatch arena.
Yeah. Which is returning, and we immediately realize it, right? We're like, oh shit, we're here. This is definitely Limbo's work. So you get your showdown with Babbage. And again, this is a recurring thing they do, but like, Kintoki, they talk about and mention later, Kintoki is the child of a god and a mountain witch, so he's not quite human. But he explicitly has his lightning powers even as a mortal man. So they do this thing with his lightning bolts a lot, which is really good. It's a really good effect they do. So you beat Babbage, and he has the speech you alluded to earlier about clad your ideals in steel. It's a great speech. Like, I won't try to go over it. You either know it or you haven't got there yet, and you need to read it. But it does that thing you talk about. It really starts Kintoki on his character arc of like trying to figure out what his deal is. Because I'll say this, kind of the impression I always got, the reason why he never summoned a servant, was because he didn't have a wish. Like, he had the qualification for a master by being a powerful warrior, but he didn't have something to wish on the Grail for, so he had no reason to summon for the servant.
You mentioned that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting that neither you or he seems to explicitly bring this up in the story, but he kind of is thinking in those lines. A lot of this dialogue he has with himself where he's like, what am I missing? What's going on? The thing that is missing is that he does not have, like, a wish. He's just a guy. He's just doing stuff. It's not until the very, very end where he's like, nope, I've got it. I've got my thing. I know what I'm about. Once again, by the way, if you haven't actually listened to the song Golden Path, it is literally all about this. It was made, I believe, from the bottom up to be about Lost Belt 5.5, and it is on point. It is the thing, the themes, encapsulated musically. It's good. Go listen to it. It's also, like, the lyrics are all in English, so you can figure it out. But yeah, so Babbage has this great speech that kind of, like, really motivates you and Kintoki to be like, okay, we got shit to do. All right. And then our next thing is, like, because Kintoki's mentioned that Raiko's kind of, like, holed up and stuff, hasn't come out really. I think this is the part of the story where, like, he may have mentioned it before, but this is the part of the story where he starts seriously being like, yeah, she's probably a master then. And you even get some insert shots. I think they do a really good, I don't want to quite call it a fake out, but they do kind of enough of a mystery here. Because Raiko is shown with a mysterious Japanese child. And while I was pretty sure who this character was from her introduction, it was still just not explicit enough that I was kind of like, okay, I'm getting some weird vibes here.
I don't know. As soon as they said Humpty Dumpty, I was all like,
Yeah. No, like I said, when I got there, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is this character. But also, again, the some very interesting interactions and vibes. But yes, with talking with Raiko, they give a speech about Humpty Dumpty, and you're kind of like, huh, there's no reason for this small Japanese child to understand that. So, oops, it was rhyme. But yeah, so our next bet is to go to Raiko directly, and Kentucky has to struggle with this one. I think he even pitches it as, well, we'll go to Abe no Seime's mansion first to see if he's home or see if he left anything, and then he's like, actually...
Wait, no, we skipped the part. We skipped the Oni arriving.
Does it actually happen? I think their their first attack happens first, right?
Yeah, because they wander around Heian-kyo, and then I forgot her name. Kato Danzo maps out their path, and then it all intersects at
Seime's address, which is also Raiko's address. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that happened a little bit later, but no, you're right. We're introduced to the Oni attacking. There's a lot of fun world building with like the barrier here. That's why they have to be small. They can't, jump in right away. But something has made them a little more powerful. So Ibaraki comes out, full force with a big Oni with her. Thanks to it's spelled out later. Thanks to Shuten's servant, because Shuten was selected as a master, even though she is an Oni.
Power.
Yeah. Well, she's the boss of the Onis. The king of Mount Oe, so it makes sense. But yeah, so we get a confrontation with them first, which is very interesting. This came a thing we talked a little bit about. I think it was off mic. The Oni from Mount Oe are set up very interestingly. There's a very weird scene that lets you know how Shuten and Ibaraki's relationship is slightly fucked up. Where Ibaraki really enjoys causing chaos, really loves involves smashing things and stuff. But at a point, and throwing guys around, but at a point, Shuten is like, hey, Ibaraki, I loaned you my lieutenant and my buddy, and I let you in even though you used up your month's thing. But I got a rule. Everything you kill, you have to eat. And Ibaraki's like, that's okay, Shuten. I haven't killed anybody yet. Please don't make me eat people. So it's an interesting bit of characterization. The kind of impression you get, because it's not to say that, Shuten's not afraid to kill a fool. Or even, God forbid, they definitely play up just how, fickle and chaotic Shuten is as an Oni. Mm-hmm. Ibaraki is and continues to just be a little gremlin.
Precious banana.
I don't think her characterization really changes in this. It's she's here to, cause a fight and have people go, no, Ibaraki, you're so strong and cool. And, she mostly gets annoyed when people don't take her seriously. That's when she gets really mad at Suna in the opening when, he's just, blowing her off and she's just like, how dare you? Fuck you. She just causes chaos and doesn't really care how it happens or why. And whenever it comes to, doing real evil, she's not really there for that. She's not really sadistic or anything. She's just a troublemaker, a delinquent. Shuten is very sinister in a lot of her scenes. Not just in this, but in other places. Everybody should remember Shimosa, where she decided to, double check our entrails for us.
I mean, it helped us somehow.
Kind of. But it was also very uncomfortable and gross.
I mean, honestly, if I had to guess, I'm pretty sure Shuten is trying not to kill people because once she starts killing and eating, the relationship that she has with Kentoki can't be the same anymore. I mean, they literally mentioned this in the epilogue when they do the basically the postscript about how eventually they did start eating people, and guess what? Fucking Raiko and her 4 Heavenly Kings had to mount up and take them out.
Yeah. I do also like in the postscript, they're like, and there's several versions of how this went down. Mm-hmm. Take your pick. But yeah, it's definitely the implication, whether it's her relationship with Kentoki personally or just the general vibes of once she stops just stealing shit and kidnapping people for fun. I do also appreciate that at least in this translate, they don't make any shy that even though our 2 primary Oni bosses are very clearly, at least visually, chicks, they do, steal pretty ladies just because it's fun, I guess, or because, humans care about it. But
well, they want pretty girls to serve them wine and stuff, you know.
Like
if I remember correctly, they did. I believe they do say they took boys too.
I think it's mentioned a couple of times, but in general, like I said, that is part of the Shuten Doji and the Mount Oe myth that I feel like Fate didn't go super deep in on because they weren't maybe they weren't sure if they could go for that. But this time they're just like, nah, fuck it. They're Oni. They're doing villain shit. They kidnap maidens and steal your livestock and your jewels and stuff.
Yeah, because when they would kidnap someone, Kentucky would always come running to save them.
Yeah. So, Shuten gets to enjoy this kind of play acting they do, and she has very strict rules to make sure it flows. That's why she has this conversation with Ibaraki, which is like, hey, Ibaraki, you fucked up. I'm giving you a second chance because I'm running my own game here. If you're gonna be out here causing a ruckus, I'm gonna make you follow through, And Ibaraki's like, okay, I don't want to follow through. I don't want to eat humans. They're gross and they're not good for you. And then the implication in the postscript is just, for whatever reason, whether it was entirely because of Kentucky, personally, like kind of him finding his field as a hero, or, other stuff going on, eventually Shuten takes off the kid gloves, and it gets real enough that, like, Abe no Seimei is like, yep, gotta go take care of that. It's gonna be a problem. Gotta do a thing. Oh, that does remind me, we skipped Tamo's first cameo as well, because we were talking about the Imperial Palace. We do bump into her there, mysteriously.
And, you see straight through her, and she's also like, I see. Do we perhaps have some fate? And you're just like, and she's like, I knew it.
Yeah, she's like, have we met before? And you're kind of like, we haven't met before, but... And she's like, yes, I see. And, she pulls you aside for a quiet conversation, which is basically just like, you can see, right? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, all right, I'm not here to fuck with you. You don't fuck with me? And you're like, yeah. And we're like, okay. Smart on the master, by the way, not to try and pull that trigger. I know some people have kind of lamented that Tamo doesn't get more focus in this. I'm kind of glad she didn't, because I feel like in a chapter like Heian-kyo, the focus she would get would be like Ibuki to be like an extra boss. Like, Limbo would pull the Tamamo no Mae trigger early, and that would be a problem. But it's not that. It's just very casual. And then she's just like, well, that was weird. Anyway, go about my business. Should I bust out some tails and some fangs? Nah, that weird kid's got it. I'm cool. But yeah, so the Oni rampage around. We boop Ibaraki's snoot. And you have some setups with her. They do actually, set up about her and Kentucky's kind of frenemies relationship. And Kentucky's kind of like, I don't really remember any of that shit. I just know that you're here fucking around and you can't be doing that. But also, I understand that, like, you're just fucking around, But we do get introduced to Shuten's servant. It's Paracelsus. He uses elemental bullshit to get around. I do also want to say I appreciate both as an allied servant later and as an enemy, Shuten can't use her NP because she doesn't have it yet.
Yeah, no, she didn't drink the fucking wine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great touch, personally.
Yeah, like, it's a little annoying to use her as a support there, though they do at least make sure to give her a passive so that all of her, like, default attacks inflict poison even as a support character, which is cool. Yeah. You still get your mileage out of it a little bit. But yeah, no, it's a great touch to be like, well, yeah, of course she can't actually, properly do that because she hasn't ingested the wine yet. She does have some sacred wine that she can use for certain attacks later, but it's not her Sanpaku Kido yet. It's not the thing because she hasn't drank that yet.
Yeah, no, they actually mentioned that usually the first thing Shuten does when she breaks into the capital is go steal the really good wine.
Yeah. Well, and they even explicitly mention, like, when Kentucky's explaining her name, it's she is the drunk one. But he's like, but she's not actually that drunk if you pay attention, Again, it that fits a lot of Shuten's characterization in this story and in general in Fate, where she's basically like, everybody knows the memes about the drunken fist style, you do a lot of erratic movements because you pretend to be drunk all the time. Shuten is the drunken fist master at everything, not just fighting. Like, she uses drunken fist in social and everything. It just,
He really wants your eyeballs, though.
Yeah. She's like, oh, your eyeballs are so pretty. What if I gouge them out for you? Or sometimes she's like, oh, you look like you've seen some shit. What if I pluck your eyes out for you? It's like, no, stop it.
Stop that.
I also I love this fucking conversation when it happens later, where like Shuten's like, "Oh, you're so cool, so sweet. I wish I could just take a bite. Can I take a bite?" And Kentucky's like, "Fuck no, dumbass. You can't take a bite. Who would ask for that?" And Shuten's like, "You'd be shocked." And I'm like, "Yes, I've been on the internet."
No, like, honestly, like, I really do love the interaction between Shuten and Kentucky, and the interaction between Shuten and the Master, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, Shuten is, like, into you for some odd reason that she can't even explain. But
there's definitely a lot of vibes I like, where even though these are the real-life living versions of these characters, obviously we've canonically met them all. You get to even shout out about Onigashima, right?
Yeah.
Like, we know all these people, and we're very familiar with them. We work with them closely, and, you know, have encountered them over several events and stuff. And so it's a cool thing that can happen with time travel stories like this, and this is a really interesting way for them to do this as a, like, later Lost Belt after all these characters have been introduced, that we can be like, yeah, I know you, I understand what your deal is, we're pretty close. And the other characters are just like, yeah, I feel like you get me, man. You know, Kentucky's like, I feel like we got a thing, boss. You're the boss. You know?
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, if you already know somebody, you already know, like, their tells and actions, how to be around them, and people just automatically put at ease.
Yeah. And that also, because the Throne of Heroes operates outside of time, I think does mean that there's a little bit of, like, the fated connection stuff where, like, oh, I feel like I know you. And you gotta be careful. To some people, anyway. With Kentucky, we just tell him the whole shit, and he's just like, cool, neato. That doesn't change his life any, that he knows about, you know, other weird stuff. About the future and whatnot. But yeah, so we have our interaction with Shuten the first time. We scare her off. But then Kato Dando does the thing you talked about where she tracked all the Oni and figured it out. And that's when it's Domon's house. But then Kentucky is like, I mean, yeah, Domon does live right over there, but actually it's Raiko's house, which is this house. And we need to talk to Raiko anyway, so... And then Kentucky, I think, just spends like literally 10 minutes just staring at the front door, unable to open it. And then that kid pops out, and you're like, oh. He's like, oh, what the fuck? Where's a weird kid? And she's like, yo, come home. And he's like, okay. Kid, you shouldn't be in the street. And talk about characterization. I also really like how they handle Raiko in this story, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, obviously, especially coming right off the back of Imaginary Scramble with Summer Raiko as a character, I feel like they could have been kind of complacent or gaggy with it. No, they actually, like, try and you know, treat her fairly seriously and appropriately. When you first meet her, she's definitely, like, this is the mode for the alleged, like, saber tier, like, Raiko we're looking for, right? Like,
you know, that ice cold, you know, stare you down personality.
Yes, the you know, perfect warrior type thing. Like, you know, Donzo's talking about, like, whoa, the room feels like it's cold, you know? Kentucky, like, physically puts himself between you and Raiko to explain, and, you know, she's very direct, very clear, and very, very ominous. You know, right up until you like, Kentucky manages to break through by just calling her mother, and she's just like, oh, it's my precious little boy. You've made friends! That's adorable!
It's like, this is the first time you brought friends over! We must feast! And you're just so like, yeah, no, this is the Raiko I know.
Yeah, okay, well, time to eat a shitload of food. She feeds you for the whole rest of the day. Like, I think it's morning when you arrive. Kentucky spent an unknown number of times staring at the door, and then it hard cuts to night. And even though, like, a lot of her, like, you know, mothering aspects, you know, do stick with her, there is a fair amount of, like, actual characterization. You know, I'm sure we'll all be doing Genji Advance memes for a while. It keeps coming up.
I mean, in here, she's actually is the leader of the Genji.
Yes. She is.
You know, she is a authority figure and a force of influence in the capital. Yeah.
And they definitely play that up. While they're all off screen, you know, there are lots of Genji warriors mentioned as you're walking around her estate. You're like, wow, there's a lot of armed dudes ready for action in here, you know? Mm-hmm. And you can just imagine them in, like, the Kabuki play version of this. It's just all the spear carriers in the background just standing there being like,
Also, we have to remember this is a pre-Mount Oe, which in the epilogue they talk about, like, the whole lead up to that kind of changed Raiko, not in a good way.
Yeah, that was where some of her characterization from Onigashima, like calling Oni insects and stuff, comes from. It's not explicit exactly what it was, whether it was, like, the fact that she could only win by, like, drugging her enemy stupid, Or was it, like, the fact that she could clearly see that, like, Kintoki and Shuten had a really close relationship that was weird and complicated, but, like, characterization-wise, Shuten's definitely playing, like, that, you know, weird, you know, pseudo-older sister, but also, like, you know, that girl who babysat you, who maybe you had a crush on kind of vibes to Kintoki. Like, she is older than him. She's known him from when he was very young, and obviously when he was, you know, on the mountain, he was just a wild mountain man kid. You know, his dad was a dragon, his mom was a mountain witch, so, like, he was not civilized until he came down from the mountain to be adopted by the Genji. And like, there's definitely some of that stuff that, like, Raiko as kind of, you know, this mentor and adoptive mother figure, and, you know, his leader, his liege lord in a sense, you know, doesn't really get in that relationship. You like, and definitely even when Kintoki switches to calling Raiko mother, right, it's still not, he's still not perfectly relaxed, you know? She's you know, his boss and his boss mom, his mom boss. And so it's not the same. So it could just be like that, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Mount Oe is really fucked up. I don't know.
Like, I kind of feel like that Fade to Black where they just explain everything is also probably something that got condensed and broken down.
Yeah, I could almost see that maybe, like, being like some of the earlier scenes where we did get some of that detail, where they could have expanded it. But making it kind of text-based summaries also works.
It got the point across.
Yeah, it got the point across. And I like I said, I liked the approach, at least, them explicitly pitching, like, maybe this happened. But also, in some versions, this happens. You know, whichever one is kind of interesting enough. Again, this comes up with Ibaraki, you know, where in Legends, she actually, like, lives through the Mount Oe raid and comes back, like, twice to trouble Suna in different disguises. And then probably, you know, I'm pretty sure after the arm just fucks off, you know, gives it up. It's very interesting.
Ibaraki was very good at running away.
Yeah. Well, she has a very high level of disengage.
Yep.
She's good at the skedaddling. But it turns out, like, obviously during this conversation, we run into that other character, and we're like, yo, this small child, that's a servant. And I'm pretty sure this is where it's explicitly dropped that it's rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's pretty important. But then there's also, like, hey, there's some weird vibes outside. Oh, fuck, Oni. Cause, yeah, Shuten was tailing you.
Yes.
You know, they were randomly teleporting around because, I do like that Paracelsus talks about this earlier when he does their kind of instant transmission escape. He's like, well, if we add, you know, I don't remember which one it was, whether it was Torakuma or Hoshikuma. But if we add the big Oni along with Ibaraki to our mass, I can't guarantee where we'll come out. It'll just be somewhere like several hundred yards from here. And Shuten's like, sounds fun, let's go. But yeah, you're followed around. You know, Kintoki gets lured outside by Shuten to have a 1v1, a big bonk up. You know, Suna shows up at the last minute to be like, hey, what you doing? You know, there's some Onis following you, right? And Kintoki's like, what? But again, this is one of those things that might be an issue of some time compression. They basically spell out later that, you know, they kind of tricked Ibaraki. Like, they set her up to actually, like, attack Raiko while she's distracted because she's covering for Rhyme. And then Nursery Rhyme does the thing that all servants are supposed to do and, you know, jumps in and takes the bullet for the master. And this is not a good time for Ibaraki.
No.
You know, she ends up, you know, cutting the throat of what looks to be a kid, and she's just like, what?
I believe this is the scene in the CM where she's just staring at her bloody claws.
Yeah. No, this is actually, several of these moments are referenced in the CM, because this is where, obviously, like, Kintoki and Shuten having a fucking brawler outside, Ibaraki just looking at her hands going, like, what? And Raiko getting slightly lightning tickled.
Yep.
Because this was Shuten's plan. She set up to take out her servant, which took the form of a kid, because that's a thing that Raiko is really intense about, you know. She kind of, again, we get a lot of good character development for Raiko. She kind of talks about how, with Rhyme, about how, I get kind of the impression that, like, she wasn't really allowed to have that much of a normal childhood.
Oh, no, she definitely wasn't.
Yeah, you know, for various reasons. So, like, she really embraced a lot of childhood stories and legends, which is why she connects so well with Nursery Rhyme. And Rhyme even makes sure to constantly use Raiko's childhood name, you know? It's a big deal. And so she's really connected there. So she gets real nettled about Rhyme taking the bullet for her, and this was Shuten's plan. Shuten's plan is she figured out about Gozuteno, about Ushigozen, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna have her go nuclear in downtown Heian-kyo, and we're gonna see what happens. That's way funnier than this Holy Grail War shit. So that turns into you have your death match versus Shuten and Paracelsus. Yeah, somebody brought up the fake spoilers that, like, Ibuki was caused by, like, Raiko and Shuten fusing. I could kind of see where they were coming from. No, it's not. That's not what happens. Honestly, the fact that Ibuki kind of comes out of nowhere is, I think, part of the vibe, but we'll get there. But yeah, so you have your fight with Shuten and Paracelsus. I was not particularly annoyed by this fight, by the way. There's some. We'll get into the fights where I got a little tickled. I had to start spending some seals and stuff.
What fights were that for me? I can't remember. I had to spend a total of 2 Saint Quartz to complete this. I'm trying to remember which fights it was.
I believe same. And I popped seals on I used seals on the Medea Suna one that mattered. That was the first time I had to do a full reset, because that fight is a little bullshit. The fact that Suna can get a damage cut.
Oh yeah, no, it was Suna.
His damage.
Yeah, no, because it's random. But if he gets like 1 damage cut, you're just doing 0 damage, and you're just like,
unless you crit or do an NP, and the heal. Both of them heal 15k even after Medea is gone. So that one was a little tough. Also, I thought that little Dragon Tooth Warrior shit wasn't going to be that annoying, but the fact that he drops you like 10% NP when he does a basic attack, that was actually that annoying. I think that might have cost me a reset. I used a lot of Castoria Gobur in parts of this, and I may have missed some invuls because of that.
Yeah, no, it was Suna and the big Ibuki Doji fight that got me.
That was one.
Again, I'm gonna say this again. You don't go phase 1 having to deal with a bunch of invul, and then phase 2 go straight to 2 million fucking HP. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it was a little rough. I thought I was doing okay. But then when I got to that last bar, and I had been abusing Super Orion crits, and then it was because he has Pierce, and then she was like, yes, I have 8 scales built up. I'm gonna turn that into HP. I now have 2 million. I'm like, oh no, I did not. The wiki did not properly state to me how this one worked. Oof. Now with Super Orion, the 2 million wasn't too much of a problem, but I did have to reset because I was fucking around basically for the first 2 bars, trying not to trigger the giant max HP gain, and then it happened anyway, and I'm like, rip.
No, they didn't do any Heian-kyo recap, did they? Did they? Because I would like to try the Ibuki fight again, and see if I can not make it bullshit.
Yeah, no. I think they're planning to move straight to 6. So no, there were no. Maybe next year. When we're not doing Road to 7, we'll get those fights. But yeah, we have not done I don't think we've done a Heian-kyo recap.
God damn it.
But yeah, so you have the Shuten and Paracelsus fight. You go through the whole thing. And again, Kentoki's like slowly leveling himself up. He actually gets smart. He doesn't really want to land a killing blow on Shuten, but he, aims for Paracelsus instead, takes him out. Paracelsus continues to be a pretty solid boy. You even have that conversation where, like, I've met you in a different manifestation. I know what your deal is. I know you, even though you're probably not 100% behind this plan to turn Raiko into a WMD, you would never betray your master. And he's like, yeah, you get me. Cool. And he, teleports Shuten away, having already teleported Ibaraki away after she had a little bit of a bad time. We do get to calm down Raiko. I do appreciate that you are canonically using a lot of your Mystic Code healing in this. Yeah, you do it a lot. Even though Danzo is like, I have a self-repair feature, you're like, well, too bad, getting healed anyway. So you heal Rhyme a lot to actually, like, make her stable. She manages to talk Raiko down, and she's like, well, it's time for me to go. And then she just doesn't. Even she's surprised by this. It's like, oh, I thought I was done. I guess not. This, I don't know if this is like a cut thing, or just they wanted to not kill Nursery Rhyme. Like, I'm not sure. Because later Medea describes it as a miracle, right? Like, yeah. She even explains the whole process soon of why she calls it a miracle, because it's like, makes no fucking sense. The idea is that maybe Kentoki's lightning, because he is, as Sakata Kentoki, he is also Kintaro, the golden boy, who is one of the legends encapsulated by Rhyme, kind of. Even though they go out of their way to specify that normally Rhyme is mostly Western fairy tales and stories. Though obviously, thanks to cross-cultural contamination, some of those, legends do get kind of globalized. But even then, Medea's like, that still probably shouldn't have worked. So, again, I don't know if that was something they were actually going to expand on, or they were just like, no, this is a story about being a hero. We would feel bad if Rhyme died. We're just gonna make her alive again, and we're not gonna put too much on it. Because there's definitely a lot of those hero vibes in this, and like, what does it mean to be a hero? What are your ideals, etc. And we do get to this. Our next thing is like, Raiko is like, okay, you are right in that this is probably bad news bears, but also we are told to do that. We got to do the thing. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna convene a Genji Council. You have your big meeting. Everybody talks about stuff. And Raiko ultimately comes to the very thematically appropriate conclusion. The only way to settle this when two parties are equally right, duel. You must fight. And this is where we actually get our final boss fight with Suna. Which, like I said, that was one of the resets I had to do because it wasn't hard per se. They just really went out of their way to like make Suna RNG-ly tanky. Because he has an evade too. Which I think is a whole turn evade, so like it's a rough one. I do at least appreciate that like the game mechanics have advanced so far that like as an enemy, Medea Lily firing her NP is like such a non-issue. Oh no, you healed 3k and cleared debuffs. What do I do?
Well, that's always the weird thing about like healing NPs is that they're always based upon
Player side HP,
player side HP, which is very small. It's like when I'm getting my Tamamo heal off and I'm doing like 2k to whatever, I'm all like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But like I look at the other, I look at the opposite side who are rocking several hundred thousands worth of HP, and I'm just all like, that's just a drop in the bucket for you.
Yeah. Her NP is so tiny compared to the per turn healing they do.
Yeah.
But obviously you do beat them, and Kentoki goes all out to actually stop Suna, makes him kneel, makes him drop to a knee dramatically. They kind of hash it out, and Suna realizes that he's in the wrong, right?
Right.
Which also means, by the way, Medea Lily lives!
Yay!
She goes all the way through the story. Nothing bad happens with her. It's actually kind of fun.
Medea Lily really sticks in a support role. Nothing is ever really explained about her.
Yeah. About
her goals or ideas. She's just a stalwart companion to Suna.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think they have a really good relationship, which I enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I really like their dynamic, because Suna's, the cold, stoic warrior. Medea is a powerful mage, but she's also, he even brings this up, she's a princess, right? So,
yeah.
They have a very cool classical relationship where, like, Suna is technically in charge, but, he respects Medea.
And I know they showed their backstory because when they're leaving, Watanabe and the siblings, it's all like, talks about, Lord Jason and all that stuff. So
yes. Yeah, so he obviously asked her like what her deal is, and she explained, who she is.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have a pretty good relationship that we also don't have to fuck up. And then it's basically like, all right, we've called it off.
Yay.
And then this is where we fire it up a notch, because we move firmly deep into the second or third act even here. Because basically, I do at least appreciate, I think Raiko sends a letter to Lord Michinaga to be like, yo, in a trap, call it off.
We done.
And Michinaga is like, well, okay. I mean, if the three remaining Genji warriors in this fight won't carry it out, it's off. And I can't bully them, so it's done. And then Domon is like, nope. Because I am not Domon. I was Limbo. Limbo was Domon.
He just, runs over to his organ and slams on it.
Yes.
Because that is something like Limbo would fucking do. I know he.
Yeah. He's like, you thought you got me, but you didn't. My backup plan. And this is where stuff definitely on a like macro scale lore starts to get interesting. So, Domon reveals that he is basically a high servant now, Mm-hmm. He in fact mindfuckled himself. He basically told himself, hey, nobody's ever gonna like you like they like Abe no Seme. And real life Ashitoma was like, oh no, you're right. Cry emoji.
What I found crazy is what Doman fused himself with as a high service. It was
yeah. No, this whole bit with like Doman's high servant stuff is rad. First of all, there's a really, really sick CG when he goes all Onmyoji Dark God.
Yeah, with the 8 gods and the eyes and all that crazy stuff.
The fucking red eyes and the zoom. But yeah. He fused himself with a couple of things.
I can't know the name off the top of my head, but it's the Aztecan god known as the Obsidian Butterfly is one, and the other one is Chernobog.
Yeah, an evil spirit or god from Slavic mythology, one associated with darkness.
Yep. Same with the Aztecan one. It's I remember reading it because I saw the name. I'm like, I know that's Aztecan, but what the fuck is this? And then I read it, and I still wasn't completely sure on it. But I'm like, this is bad juju.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the actual list here. It's Papa Level.
Yeah, there we
go. But he also he explains it a little bit. He also got an extra guy in there. He has Fujiwara no Akimitsu as well, who was a rival of Michinaga, who wanted Doman to curse the city allegedly. But yeah, it's really interesting how he turned himself into a high servant, so he very explicitly got to pick what he wanted, right?
Right.
I know that also with Itapalal, calling it obsidian or clawed butterfly, that could be like a bat as well, which could kind of work into some of his vibes. But yeah, there's a lot of like dark and death stuff that he picked up, just a la carte. But he reveals his evil plan, and he reveals that within his evil plan, he's like, yeah, so I made this a singularity because I got a Holy Grail, and I set up the Grail War, so it's going to suck if those guys don't kill themselves. But I got a backup plan, because you know what I also got? I got some tree clippings from that other tree I planted, and he reveals that he's got leftover bits of the roots of the Lost Belt tree that was going to form in Shimosa at, Onreido Castle, and he turns that into a tree proper. Boom, tree, turns everything into eternal night with a blood red moon, This gives me big Okami vibes from a lot of these sections.
It really does now that I think about it.
Yeah. And he, creates a giant tree, and then he's just like, all right, now I'm going to chill, because I'm going to summon forth my, 8 Onmyoji god generals. And he does. He starts summoning. And this is where we get our extras. So our second phase, the second version of the map, we've got all these guys on our side. We got a shitload of Genji warriors, Raiko's here, Suna's here, Kentoki's still with us, Ryman, Medea, Lily are not really combat capable, but can support us. And Danzo's obviously still with us, so we got a wide selection of allies to go through. This is the first time that but not the only time, Karoko busts back into the setting. She's like, hold on, I've been told to deliver you this letter. What is the letter? Fucking magic Abe no Seme texts. I love it.
I mean, it literally is just fucking, Abe sent Senman basically sent Murasaki over with a cell phone. He just texts you all day.
Yeah. Like, it is described as floating letters appear, which obviously, in the fluff for her servant version, which appeared earlier, that is, explicitly something Murasaki can do, is she can use magic to make letters appear. Normally, it's kind of like a curse, her caption effect, but, this is just Abe no Seme texts. You get to jive about how, actually, in the future, sending text messages over the airwaves is pretty popular. But yeah, and so, Abe, by the way, once again, shout out to Seme.
Listen, I don't care what anyone says, Abe no Seme is literally just Japanese Merlin. Literally, even the personality is the fucking same.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's a little less teasing to us. He's definitely not that to Doman. He's just like, and I love that he's just like, yeah, Doman, that fucking doofus. That imbecile. That idiot. He's dumb. He's a dumb duty head. Anyway, you can solve this. It's no problem. He was a goofus who didn't realize that, the 7 guys could just quit. So he did come up with a backup plan. Just do this stuff I tell you. But I also love the sheer balls this man has, where he's just like, yeah, I'm not even here right now. I'm not in town, and I'm not coming back to town. So here's how you solve this. Well, no, I think that they do explicitly solve some stuff with Doman as a character, as an individual character later. That's also in the epilogue. The only time that technically Abe no Seimei appears, though not on screen, but he is physically there because he approaches Domon and is like, "No, you dumb idiot! You can't commit suicide. You're immortal, right? Remember?" And Domon's like, "Oh yeah, I am immortal. That wouldn't do anything. Just learn your lesson and stop trying to compete with me and with other people. You don't really care about it. I don't really care about it."
I totally feel that the fact that they don't have a sprite for Abe no Seimei right now means that they're probably going to make him summonable in the future.
Yes. I think a lot of people have that vibes. I know, I think was it Loth? Somebody joked about how them doing this Castoria raid up right before the New Year's and the new Lost Belt drop would be like, "Ooh, is it time for another broken support caster?" I totally feel like Seimei would be a big get, because obviously character-wise, a lot like Merlin and a lot like even like a lot of our other characters, he has a lot of influence to other people.
Now that I think about it, the writer that came out with Tunguska, that's basically Chinese Merlin. That was also at the end of the year. Merlin's first raid up was at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're having some thoughts.
I said maybe New Year's for him, because
maybe at New Year's we'll see him. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Taigon Wong was definitely
Taikobo
was framed as like, kind of a similar role to Merlin. He was definitely an adversary to Lady Daji and stuff. I think the game even points out he probably should have been a caster, but was summoned as a writer instead for reasons, to let them spread it out. They could probably do a lot with Abe no Seimei, but yeah, no, mythologically, there's a reason why a lot of people compare him to the Japanese Merlin. He is overly mythologized. He could have been a real guy. Like, there are attestations of a member of the Abe clan, in his roles, probably Abe no Seimei. But also he's like super tied into a lot of our other characters, like obviously the relationship with Tamamo. Though I think it's interesting that as a heroic spirit, caster of Limbo, the heroic spirit, Ashia Doman, is like really not over his Seimei thing. As a heroic spirit, Tamamo's definitely over it. She's just like, that dingus. I don't like him. I don't want to talk about him. But she's not like, I curse his name. If I were ever to see him, I would punch him. She might punch him anyway, but,
I'm about to say, no, I'm pretty sure she's going to punch him, but it's not going to be, because of some deep-seated curse. It's just because she sees him and she gets really fucking irritated.
Yes. Because you get the impression that, he's not a bad guy, he's just an annoying guy.
Classic Merlin.
Yeah. Though, funnily enough, especially with Tamo, the funny thing is that, mythologically, Abe no Seimei is connected to foxes. It's very famous in the most popular part of the Kabuki play that is about him and Ashia Doman, and Doman's name is fucking in it. The most popular part is Act 4, which is titled separately Kuzunoha, which is Abe no Seimei's mother, who is a kitsune spirit, according to legends.
The golden fur white-faced fox, I believe?
I don't think it's directly related to golden furred whiteface, but yeah, Kuzunoha is her name. So yeah, there's foxy connections there, which are funny, but also it does mean that Abe no Seimei is supposed to be non-human. He was supposed to have dangerous supernatural powers as a young child. He was said to be able to command Oni, and his mother was freaked out, and so got him taught spiritual arts to put him right. Very similar to some interpretations that Merlin was supposed to be the Antichrist, but because he was baptized, we negated that. And he's just a weird boy.
Weird boy living his best life.
Getting kicked by Foe. Another shame, by the way. Doman did not give Foe a pass into this story.
I'm trying to remember.
Foden.
Kuzunoha, no, you're right. Now I remember because sorry, I'm just.
By the way, I'm not shitting you. When I was doing my research for the Doman Wanted, there is actually a whole classical Japanese play which can be interpreted in a couple of formats. Kabuki is one of them that has his name in it, and it's the most sympathetic portrayal of him. He is the main character for several of the acts, and he's not really a bad guy. He does bad things, but that's because it's about courtly intrigue. He is assigned to operate with bad lords who are like, "Yo, curse this guy, kill this guy," and he's like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it because my sister is is part of this political intrigue, etc., etc. My master's part is political intrigue." But literally, there is a most popular part that is about Abe no Seimei's mother and her relationship with Abe no Seimei's father. That is usually the part that is shorter and is broken out. It's kind of funny. Poor Doman is eclipsed even in a work that is titled after him. Anyway, we got off about Abe no Seme because he's a cool dude who communicates via text boxes, and I love that he's just like, Doman, that blithering idiot. That giant doofus. That big, stupid doo-doo head. He's an idiot, a fool. I have come to clown on him. By which I mean I didn't come at all. I stayed home.
I can clown on him from here!
Yes, I could. He is such a foolish fool that I can clown on him from over here. I only have to leave my vacay spot. But anyway, the serious problem is that Doman is using his extra command seals and stuff to and his authority over the Grail and the fact that he has the Holy Grail to summon extra people, his Onmyojin, his Onmyoji god generals, to summon them so he can feed them to the tree because he can use that energy to turn this place into a lost belt. And later some other stuff. I don't remember exactly when he introduces that, but I think the bulk of his dialogue is later when Ibuki shows up. He actually outlines what he's actually doing. And then that was all a lie, so he outlines what he was actually doing. Doman's got like 3 layers of plan here, guys. Or limbo, I should say. And I gotta be honest, with the way his dialogue works and the way he talks to himself, I don't actually know, like, which plan Limbo is on. Like, I think all of these could have been his plan A at any given time, and then he was just like, you know what? That's dumb. I'm gonna make plan C plan A. Now it's a backup plan. Like, he just does a lot of fucking around. I enjoy it, but it definitely makes, like, did he actually mean this to be his primary plan, or did he decide to do the switch at literal the last minute while he was talking to himself? I don't know. But he's basically summoning, kind of evilized heroic spirits, demonic corpse Shikigami with heroic spirits in him. Very vague of the 7 swordmasters from Shimosa, right? They even got the same red eyes. And the first 2 he summons are, they have, Onmyoji god names that I don't remember, but it's Tota and Suzuka. By the way, they do a really freaky thing with their in-game voice lines with the filter.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought that was neat.
Yeah, very, very good. It was a little subdued, I didn't catch it at first, but when Suzuka did her NP in the first fight you do, I was like, hold on a minute, this sounds wrong. I, open up my ears, I listen closely, I'm like, whoa, they put a filter over this. This is neat. But yeah, so basically, they're walking straight up Main Street. They're going to touch the tree and kill themselves and get the goop in. And Abe no Seme's letter has to explain. Obviously, you don't need to worry about them doing that far away, because otherwise they would just do it right when they were summoned. But you do have to worry about if they die, their spirits will be cycling into the Grail. So here's what you do. Here's 8 talismans I prepared earlier, with extras, just in case. So you gotta break their spirit cores, then slap the seals on them, and basically they'll get kicked off this... back to the Throne of Heroes right away with no time for their spiritual energy to linger around. So the Tota Suzuka fight is a little rough. I didn't have too much trouble with it. It's definitely a little chaotic, I think, with the classes they've got, because it's Saber and Archer.
I'm gonna be real. It took me forever to figure out that you could do damage. That you have to do damage right after they use their NP. Yeah,
I at least knew that from writing the pregame. But even when you do that, like, I did so much, like, long-term planning with my invols. I think I busted out my Jean for this even, where I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I can always tank through an NP turn, because that's when I can do the damage. And there was a lot of juggling and strategizing to make that one work. It's an interesting concept, but with the way even AoE NPs work, that's a lot of damage. It's really, really hard to wrestle with. I mean, I'm going to be honest, my Jean stall is not necessarily a stall. It was more of a tactical, like, okay, we're gonna do all of our NP buildup so that when the bad turn comes, we're gonna block it all and then we're gonna get them. But again, there's a lot of that legacy stuff we talked about later. Like, these 2 spirits are from the era before even our Heian-kyo team, right?
Right.
Like, Suzuka herself has basically faded into, like, myth as a legendary warrior. And Tota as well is, like, really important in his relationships. The Genji warriors even have a little bit of a hard time dealing with them and their noble phantasms. They do come up with a actual really cool strategy, though. Because they are now heroic spirits, to activate their noble phantasms, they have to say the true name. Mm-hmm. Which means that there is a moment while they are speaking the chant that they can actually be interrupted, which Raiko and Sune use to get the killing blow. I thought that was actually, like, a really cool touch. Because Fate doesn't usually actually bring up the fact that is a requirement of how heroic spirits work. You have to speak the true name to activate the noble phantasm in its most powerful form. And then technically you have to say the true name and do the whole chant and stuff too. So that's really neat that they actually, like, made that a proper part of the fight. But this is just a kind of an excuse for a lot of, like, Kentucky to keep being like, what am I fighting for? Why am I doing this? It would sure suck if this guy, created the Naraka Mandala and turned this place into hell on earth forever. But, like, why would it suck? It takes Kentucky a little while, though, to figure that one out. I don't really have any more extra... This is where we get very boss rushy, and I think we start to bounce from characters to characters really fast. With Suzuka and Tota, it's kind of interesting because we've met them before, normally in kind of a non-hostile sense. Suzuka kind of is an enemy we have to deal with in CCC, but she's not very serious about it.
Yeah.
So, and Tota was, a helpful goobus in Camelot, so he didn't really do a lot in the plot, but he was okay. As evidenced by the fact that he gets cut out of the movie version, was he didn't really do a lot. Other than have unlimited rice.
Rice. Here, like, again, I think the point here is they're supposed to represent a physical challenge, but also kind of a mental one. Yeah. Because they do a lot of mocking and being all like, are you not stronger than this? Yeah. And whatnot. And the thing I appreciate is they actually do have a reason for it. Because, even if they are just a corpse taken over, they are still who they are. We have some sick CG of, Suzuka, well, not, I don't want to call it sick, but we have some CG of, Suzuka crying tears of blood out of frustration and whatnot.
And there's a couple, there's a new sprite for her and stuff in there. There's some extra details in these moments. And it is interesting to see, even when they're being, all cold and are being mocking sometimes, the language still follows through, Suzuka has some of her more, JK speech patterns.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that position, and then, we do defeat them. It's a good moment, and I think with pre-established characters, this kind of format works, because it's just, the context of, one section of the story, right? So it plays very well. Our next couple sections, though, are a little more broad, and this is the part where we talk about the things. So the next two Onmyoji who are summoned are, I even forgotten his name, but the Big Daddy Tsuchigumo, the Big Chungo one, and Taira no Kagekyo. That's not his proper name, because that's not at all what his fucking role is. He's a big Tsuchigumo guy. But Kagekyo appears, and Kagekyo's, as a heroic spirit who is the death of Genji, has the ability to make all the Genji warriors just kind of, keel over and die, basically. Danzo catches the recon and reports it back to everybody, and so we're like, okay, so we can't send our main Genji force and our Genji, warriors out to fight this person, because that would not go over very well. They would be able to overpower us. We need to work on this. And you also have a quiet conversation with Danzo, kind of an aside, where she's like, also, by the way, totally this physical personage, this is definitely Minamoto no Yoshitsune. This is Ushiwakamaru's body, being piloted by Kagekyo. And we're like, yes, that's very interesting. We'll deal with that bridge when we come to it. Literally, we do it on a bridge.
We do a reenactment. It's
pretty neat. But first, we do have this interesting moment where we have to go to Mount Oe, because Kentoki's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to recruit the Oni, because they probably don't want the city to be destroyed and be, fucking demonic and shit. And we know that Shuten was kind of involved in this nonsense, so she's obviously strong. So we're just going to have a conversation with her. And Kentoki is like, I'll go. Obviously, her and Raiko just had a moment, only a couple days ago, Tsuna cut off Ibaraki's arm, so Kentoki, will go. I've got a little bit of a back and forth with them. We'll have this talk, and we'll see if we can't hash it out. And while at first Ibaraki is like, oh, you want to ask me for help? Damn, you dumb. I'm going to beat you up. And then Shuten just fucking karate chops her.
It's not even that. She just grabs her. Wait, no, she doesn't know. No, it was. It was a bonk.
The first one is she just bonks her on the back of the head. The second time is she plants her like a tree. Which is also hilarious. Yeah. And then she says she pulls her out of the ground later. I can only assume Shuten just grabs Ibaraki by one of the horns and just pulls.
That's how you properly talk to Oni.
Yeah, so you do have another little Ibaraki showdown, the second of 3. But then after that, you have this conversation with Shuten. This is where we get a lot more of that Shuten characterization, where you get the idea that, Oni are really fickle. You can't really trust what they say, because what their mood strikes them as is, can be very violent and chaotic. Shuten might actually like you as a person, but also she's not gonna that doesn't mean just because she likes you, she's not gonna randomly decide, you know what, you'd look better with one less arm.
Well, there's a line that they said, I think he says, Oni eat what they like, and, no, they eat things they love, and stuff like that, Yeah. I can't remember the exact line, but I thought it was very poignant.
Yeah.
It's like they only are driven to acts of destruction no matter what.
Yes. They are kind of like a... We don't really dissect exactly what Oni kind are, but in the yokai lore, they have a couple of different roles. Generally, they are associated with bad fortune and, natural disasters and stuff. So it kind of makes sense that as like a demonic species, their kind of role that is assigned to them by human mystery and belief is like they are kind of a chaotic force, a force of misfortune and destruction. They can be organized. Shuten kind of proved that, I think, just to prove that she could, but that doesn't mean that they won't just like fuck your shit up just for kicks. This is yet another time where Shuten offers, to gouge out our eyes and stuff. And it's like, okay, thanks, Shuten. But she does get on her side, and then we jog back. And on the way, Kentoki is like, hey, so what's this Kagekyo person about? What's their deal? What's this Ushiwaka person you're talking about? So we kind of actually, do explain to him, what Ushiwakamaru's story is, and again, remember, she's descended from the Minamoto clan, the Genji warriors, a couple generations in the future. The winners of the Genpei War. And so Kagekyo pauses for a second. We get a little bit of backstory here, about what Taira no Kagekyo is, all the attempts on Ushi's brother, one of the Yoris. Yoritomo, right. Sorry. They have a very similar naming scheme, so it's like,
yes,
one of those guys, yeah. And how originally the original Taira no Kagekyo was, a Taira lord who was defeated and sought revenge, but there were no less than 37 attempts on Yoritomo's life, and all of them were Kagekyo because Kagekyo is eternal, that kind of stuff. Very classic Japanese vengeful ghost bullshit, which I love. Like, just anybody who's mad at Yoritomo can be Kagekyo. And obviously, it's explained, as Minamoto no Yoshitsune, yeah, Ushi has a reason to be a little annoyed at Yoritomo, because they were, siblings, and, Yoshitsune did a lot of heavy lifting for Yoritomo in winning the Genpei War, and then, because Yoshitsune was, popular and skilled, and also, Yoritomo's wife was conniving, scary lady. I'm a shogun, very scary lady, very serious, good at what she does, she convinced Yoritomo to kind of flip on Yoshitsune, so Ushi has reason to be upset at Yoritomo and at the Genji faction. But Yoshitsune / Taira no Kagekyo stops at a bridge and is like, yeah, this bridge is pretty cool. I think I did a thing here. And then Kentoki rolls up on the bridge and is like, hey, you know that thing? We're gonna reenact that thing.
And Taira's like, don't you reenact that thing. Kentoki's like, I'm gonna do it.
Don't you dare do it. You're doing the fucking Benkei speech, you little... And he's like, yeah, I'm doing the Benkei speech. And I love the moment where Kagekyo actually slips up and is like, shut the fuck up, Benkei. And that's when you're like, we're in it. So you have this conflict with Kagekyo a couple of times, where eventually Kentoki doing the reenactment manages to piss off Kagekyo enough to kind of be more Yoshitsune-esque, kind of let that part come to the forefront, and turn it into another, deathmatch, stage match, and clock it out. And Kentoki goes full force, even though he's, in serious danger of getting dead from this. He even gets struck a couple of times because he has still been adopted into the clan. He is still a Genji warrior, even though, Shuten is on your side and just fucking tears apart that Tsuchigumo. Just kicks his ass. And at the end, there's some sad CGs. You get to see Ushi face Yoshitsune, blue eyes and all. There's kind of a fun, poignant moment where Kentoki is like, well, boss, I've been poisoned, so I'm probably going to die soon. This is not really what I wanted to do, but, we won the fight, so that's cool. And then
everybody's like, I don't know anything about death poems. Can you help me, Mouse Ball? And you're just like, no.
It's like, yeah, no.
That's not how this works.
He's like, buddy, I'm dying. Can you spin me a death poem? And you're like, no.
Get up.
You're fine. Really? Wasn't I gonna die? No, yeah, it was a noble phantasm effect. It was the servant. The servant's dead. There's no poison. There's no poison for Genji. Poison specifically made to kill Genji.
I know you.
Genji's poison. What? I'm sorry. It's just become such a thing for us while recording. It just, I feel compelled every time.
If we use proper noun, we do the fucking Cusco bit every single time.
Yes. Every time we talk about the poison and a proper noun, it's like, okay. It's the whole bit. It's gotten to the point where I'm not even, like, doing it straight on anymore. I just go through the motions. We'll get bored of it someday. Maybe.
That day is not today, though.
No, but yeah. And, you know, Shootin has some funny lines in here, too. But yeah, you pick him up and you're like, okay, cool, we're good. All right. Well, we'll all reconvene. And pretty sure, yeah, that's because that's like sections 13 and 14, or 12 and 13. Because 14 is Ibuki, and then 15 is Doman, and then 16 is Epilogue. I think I'm remembering that right. So this is the part we talked about. You guys go back to base, and then a whole bunch of Oni start marching down the mountain. And I love the story framing in this, where it's like it's really weird. Even Ibaraki is like, "Hey, where are you guys going? I just woke up. Why are we all leaving?" And then just Ibaraki meets Ibuki and is just like, "I must go down the mountain. Tall lady is tall. She is the boss now." So your whole party is like, "Why is there a fucking Oni army marching into our city?" And Shuten's like, "I don't fucking know. I'm here. What, you think this is my thing?" So you confront him. This is the part where, you know, you fight Ibaraki for the third time. And then, like I said, because she feels compelled to, like, keep fighting and marching towards the tree, you know, you have to bonkle her one more time. Shuten, like, plants her in the ground. And that's when Ibaraki shows up. No, not Ibaraki, Ibuki. It's very confusing. All the dojis are also hard. She's very tall.
Yes.
I really like the expressions they, like, she fulfills that very, like, classy, stronger than you kind of, like, oh, you're approaching me? You know, I love that kind of eye narrowing, like, oh, you're interesting, you're neat. It even shows up in her fight mechanics. You know, one of her NPC buff is, make me draw this sword. You won't. You're not going to do it. And we learn very quickly that this is, like, Ibuki Doji, the god of Mount Ibuki, is a real deal. This is an actual divine spirit, you know, so she is a god. She is also a divided spirit, a bunrei, from Yamato no Orochi, the, you know, biggest deal evil dragon in Japanese mythology. It's kind of a big thing that was going on there. Very, very seminal to the myths. That is why she has the Kusanagi, because that is the thing that was under Orochi's tail that Susanoo picked up and included. He gave it as a I'm sorry gift to his sister,
who's on Amaterasu, which is interesting because Tamamo is that bunrei.
Yes. Tamamo is Amaterasu's divided spirit. And there's an interesting thing here. When Doman does the third stage of this, and, like, the sky turns white with the black sun, where I think it is Ibuki says, "Oh, I've never seen Amaterasu in this shade. That's kind of weird. Neat.
Like, I don't like this."
Yeah, kind of unfortunate. But yeah, so because of this, Ibuki Doji is, like, really powerful. She is, like, you know, obviously there are the three great yokai of Japan, but there are also, like, many other, like, you know, classic monsters, big three. And Orochi is one of those. You know, he is one of the most important and biggest deal threats, because I would like to point out, to show you how much of a boss he is, Susanoo is the god of storms and lightning and stuff. He's a pretty tempestuous guy. He managed to throw a temper tantrum so bad that's when Amaterasu hid in the cave for a while. Like, yep. He's pretty fierce. To defeat Yamato no Orochi, he had to do the get him drunk trick.
We really like that trick, by the way.
Yes. I feel like there's a lot of symbolism in the use the sacred wine to knock out the bad guy and then shank them. Like, there's definitely a lot of metaphor here. Booze is important, but also be careful about how much booze you drink. But yeah, no, gets Orochi drunk and cuts off all his heads, and under one of his tails he finds the Kusanagi, which becomes an imperial regalia. Neat. But yeah, so again, big deal, and because of that, that's why Ibuki seems to have this authority to command all the Onis, because she is the biggest, scariest monster here. She's really tall. They explicitly talk about how she gets an extra meter when she switches to combat mode or something. Like, you know, lots of big, scary lady vibes. She has that gravity effect, basically, you know, the spirit pressure effect, just like Zeus had. Even reuses the same special effect visually. So, you know, we play up how big of a deal she is, because Kentoki is, really mad and like, I'm not giving up just because you're strong, lady. He decides to fight her. There's a very interesting moment that is that thing we talked about where, like, I feel like Ibuki and Shuten were supposed to have more interaction that got cut. There's a very small beat here where Shuten is, because it's, while we're doing our exposition dump, we figure out that, like, Ibuki and Shuten share the same origin, because they're both supposed to be descendants of the Serpent God. And so, basically, Shuten and Ibuki could be seen as different aspects of the same thing. Ibuki is the aspect as a god, Shuten is the aspect as an Oni, a monster, And Shuten says something where, like, hey, Ibuki, it's my turn right now. And she puts on her scary eyes, and I'm like, ooh. And then that doesn't really go anywhere. Like, it's a really interesting beat. I've always said that I really like how Fate handles, like, the Bunrei concept, Mm-hmm. The idea that you can basically just fork or relocate a deity and it becomes a new one, and that plays really interesting in Shintoism. So, there's definitely, like, I wish that we could have gotten into that a little bit more about how, like, they can be the same person, but they're different. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'm kind of sad that it didn't get expanded on, but it's still a really neat note. And it does at least justify why Shuten basically fights herself, kind of. Because she's kind of mad. She's like, whoa, hold on. I'm supposed to be in charge here. But you don't even really put a big scratch on Ibuki. You fight her. She's very amused. She thinks about killing you and slurping up your blood and stuff. But then Domon gets out his TV phone and he's just like, no, don't worry about that. Hey, don't do that. There's no need to worry. Just come on down to my place. Roll through my gate. Join my tree. I'm going to turn you into a new foreign god. A new great Satan. And this is where he explains that his plan is basically allegedly to create a backup body for the foreign god. Because the one they've got is cool, but what if he made them better? Because, boy howdy, he really likes Lucifer, the great Satan, the foreign god. It'd be real cool if he had his own, If he had one at home. So he's going to make one at home. And yes, that is really fucked up and possessive. It gets worse, but anyway, we're not there yet. Quite. And so Ibuki just leaves us alone. Just like, okay, I'm going to go. Bye. And again, that's one of those moments where you're like, was there supposed to be more here or not? I don't know. Ibuki really does come out of left field and then just fucking leaves. I assume Domon does this telephone call because he wants you to live so you see all of his great plan, because he is an incredibly obvious egotist and is just like has to let you know that he's won. But then you get to the section about Domon, and Domon is basically like, actually, I lied. Like, he does this whole monologue to camera with Michinaga there, and he's just like, yeah, so, I said all that stuff about how I'd create a new beast, a new body for my foreign god. Yeah, I thought that at first, but then I decided, what would be even better? What if I was the body for my foreign god? What if it was me, Limbo? So I'm going to eat them, and then I'm going to become an evil of humanity. And then he does that part. But he doesn't become an evil of humanity.
I was about to say, he tries to do that part.
Yeah, he does the eat part. Ibuki shows up, and he's like, actually, fooled you. Gonna eat you now. And then, we show up moments later, and he's like, Mwahaha, my tree is complete. It will bloom again. It's real fucked up. I'm going to become a beast, an evil of humanity, a great calamity, and I'm going to become the vessel for my foreign god. And then he's like, where's the big kaboom? I was promised a big kaboom.
It is literally that, and it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, no. And then, of course, Kaoruko has to bust in with another letter, and Abe no Seimei is like, hey, dumbass, you can't become a beast, you stupid idiot. And then you, the master, get to drop, and it's like, guy, you fundamentally have misunderstood how this process works. And we get to reiterate the point we like to talk about a lot. The beasts are something humanity is supposed to overcome. And also, we also bring up, and I think it's Abe no Seimei who does in his text, but also, a requirement to become a beast is you have to love humanity.
Yes.
The reason why you become an evil is because you have such a strong love, such a strong affection for mankind that your motives become twisted. We've seen this with all the major beasts we've seen. Geitia, Beast of Pity, was so piteous of us and our limited lives that he thought it was better to destroy us all and start over and spare us the problem, right?
Right.
Tiamat, regression, love of mother. She loved humans so much she wanted them to revert to being her children and return to her. Kiara's only half a beast, but her, fucked up thing is she does love humans. She sees herself as the only human. She is the ultimate expression of, really fucked up self-love. Kama is, love for humanity so strong that it spreads her love everywhere so that there is no love, basically. And we'll see what exactly happens with Koyanskaya. We know she's trying to become a beast, but she's maybe not quite there yet. We also don't know what the foreign god as Beast 7 is also supposed to represent, because we know that it's weird, The foreign god manifested using Beast 7 as its spirit origin, so... but yeah, basically, we explained that Domon can't ever become a beast because he doesn't love humanity. He sees them as, like, little toys or bugs to crush. This is kind of funny, but like I've said this before, I recently watched through a whole series of Let's Play of Final Fantasy VII Remake again. Domon gives me, like, Professor Hojo vibes. Like, at one point, Hojo is, like... I mean, he's more sadistic than experimental, but, like, they're still both really fucked up. Hojo at one point says, "Oh, I'm never sad to see my toys break." Like, Domon's kind of the same way. Like, the breaking is the point for him. Like, and because of that, he doesn't really have any love, so he can't become a beast. So now he's just, like, a high servant who's fused to a tree, and he's really strong. I do also like, by the way, he calls out that, like, he wants to be the Lost Belt king. He can't allow there to be two kings because he knows that will fuck up. Yep. Again, very
specifically calls out the first Lost Belt.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, that won't work. But even so, he's, like, really strong, and he's just like, well, okay, I couldn't become a beast. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kill you guys, and then I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna just kill everything, and that'll be fun enough for me. I'm gonna take my murder ball and go home. Yeah, the second one also had a problem because Surtur came along and kind of tried to hijack kingship.
Yeah.
And that's when Kentoki is like, "You fucking what, mate?" And this is where Kentoki gets his big moment, his literal hero transformation moment, where he's like, "You know what? Fuck you." And actually, we technically skipped over a chapter. There's a whole build-up chapter where you just fought seeds of the tree again because the tree was blooming and freaking out. It was just kind of pack filler. I think they used it to give you an excuse to not be there right away so that you didn't have to fight Ibuki again, and also basically to space out fights so that there was time for necessary dialogue. It's kind of unnecessary. I think it was cool to see the seeds again, and it was thematically interesting how they were also alter egos. It was not necessary at all, so it was just kind of a thing they did. But yeah, so Kentucky is like, I figured out what my thing is. I care about people. I care about little kids. I care about, hard working ladies. I care about dudes trying to make food for their family. I care about all humans. Humans are golden. And you say you're going to murder all of them? Fuck you, buddy. I am a babyface wrestler, and you are going to get stomped. This is basically what it is. It kind of turns into a wrestling match. Kentucky even invents a new finishing move for this.
He does.
But he also talks about how he's, he reveals that he's in fact a morphing hero, just like we said he was. He is the Tokusatsu. And he activates his secret armor, and we're like, oh yeah, it's time. Golden Bear.
Well, if I'm understanding this correctly, like, I think it was kind of like a spur of the moment thing, because they were talking about how no one could activate the armor before this, and people had hopes.
Yeah. The armor was like a secret weapon of the Genji that they built out of a ship from a distant land. A distant land ship. Perhaps...
Of unknown technology.
Perhaps some kind of space-based ship. Because we already know, in Olympus, this thing turned into Ares, so... Maybe, I don't know. It's just, even if it's not directly that, it's close enough that, like, it kind of back explains some stuff. That was cute. But yeah, it was like a secret weapon that nobody could really figure out what to do with, and then Kentucky powers it up with his lightning and transforms. And I fucking love this boss fight. Great.
Oh, it's great.
I'm kind of sad there was no sick, like, Doman rave music. I think it was just the normal fantasy grand battle music, or kind of Japanese grand battle music. It was okay. Not my favorite, but it was still... I'm kind of sad, like I said. I talk about this. I feel like maybe because of the time constraints, we didn't have a lot of extra music. There were a couple of new themes that are pretty cool. There wasn't really a lot of new battle music, which makes me a little sad. But you see the mech with you, and you have replacement master skills. I fucking love when they do that. It's hype every time. You do animations for it. And basically, you settle the fight. Kentucky's gonna cut down the tree because Ibuki is still alive in the tree, even though Domon's like, what? This cannot be! I digested you! And Ibuki's like, nah. No, you didn't. Gives Kentucky the Kusanagi, and so he's like, I'm gonna cut down the tree, you guys punch Domon. And we caught up to you, you're doing pretty good. But yeah, this is just a cool fight. It's a little complex, but I do like the aspects in it. And, I called this out. The little animation on what cards are burned, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you can track all that. You can work around it. It's a tree fight, but it's pretty standard, but it's pretty fun. And then at the end, it turns into a big fucking anime-ass conclusion. You do this whole thing. He gets stabbed. He gets filled full of light. You cut down a tree. Doman starts monologuing because he's like, I'm going to activate the secret spell in my brain and blow myself up. I'll die, but so will they. And that's like a victory, isn't it? Doman is that guy who's constantly moving the goalposts. That's really all this is. Like, not just positive ways, but in negative ways, where he's like, well, I'm going to explode, but they'll explode too, so sucks for them. Sucks to suck, I guess. But, we give him the big slice again, and Donzo technically gets the killing blow when he's still like, I'm still melting, but I'm going to get you. And Donzo, nukes him with her NP attack, and then he explodes. Bah! The tree is dead, the day is saved. We have finally punched that clown.
It's a good day.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Like I said, there are a lot of big showy CGs and animations and stuff. Kentucky summoning the Golden Bear is like a full animation thing. He's a lightning bolt that comes down. It's real good. A lot of good shit here. And then it's just the chapter 16 is just the epilogue and the denouement. We get some resolution with characters. Rhyme and Medea get unsummoned. They have some kind of, resolution with their masters. We have that conversation with Kentucky we talked about earlier where Kentucky's still like, yeah, I'm still curious. Who the fuck was my servant? Because Abe no Semi revealed that, as alter ego, Limbo, he had, himself be the final master and he was the last servant. So he was the 7th caster, kind of, but he was the alter ego. So I guess that's another theory that, like, because, Doman abused the system to summon himself as an alter ego, Kentucky was the odd man out, but also then Doman was supposed to be the 7th master, so it doesn't make sense. I don't think the math works out.
Like I said, I like my theory the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of good theories. Again, because they don't explicitly explain it, I think it's open to interpretation. I do like the Kentucky's first theory is that Limbo was his servant, and that just like because they were working at odds, that was his deal to get stuck with a bad partner. Mm-hmm. It's very funny, but no, it's not. That's not how it works. And he's still like, he was my servant all along, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go with that. Sorry, I'm yawning. This episode is not 6 hours, but it's going to be 4 hours ish. It's almost 1 a.m., so we will not be doing Fanservant Friday because I do have to edit this and put it out. So, shit, I have to come up with a title for this.
You do.
I'll figure it out later. Something golden. Oh, I'm drinking plenty of water. We're at the bottom of my second bottle of water through this. I don't think we really need to break down any more epilogue stuff, though. We've kind of talked about a lot of the moments. It's pretty cool. I was a little surprised about how text heavy it was for 2 no battle pips. Because, like I said, I was tapping away at this as time was rolling up for me to start the 14 stream last week. Not yesterday, a couple days ago now. And I was like, okay, is there an ending in here? And I'm like, oh, we keep going. I like all this stuff, but I was kind of surprised we got those extra bits. That, again, could be kind of the vibe from this getting compressed. But yeah, like, ultimately, you have your final talk with Kentucky. You're all really cool. You kind of explain to him that, like, he's not going to remember and you got to go home. And he's just like, yeah, I don't care about that. I'm fine. I had a golden time. You're the best, boss. And you're like, oh, thanks, Kentucky. And then you roll on home. You have your talk with everybody about how it worked out. All that fun stuff. You talk with Kale and Kentucky again, and he's just like, hey, how was things? And you're like, it was golden. And
he's like, hell yeah. Golden.
Even Fo gets on it. I talked about it earlier, but we get fooled and, very solid breakdown. Good denouement. There's a scene we talked about earlier where real life Ashi Doman, talks with Seimei about, like, is he doomed to be a bad dude? And Doman's like, and Seimei's like to Doman, like, I don't know about that. That guy had his own problems. There's definitely an interesting thing I talked about in the one where, because he is an alter ego or becomes an alter ego, there's definitely a possibility that the Limbo we see is not a perfect representation of all the sides of Doman. But they do also say in that same dialogue box that, according to Murasaki Shikabu, the actual Doman was kind of a weird, scummy guy anyway. Which is interesting because the Doman we meet in the Heian-kyo is not that, but also, it could be at, different time periods and stuff. Also, singularities have time disruptions in them. But we basically get follow-up on, the Mount OA crew, on Doman, and a lot of stuff, and we go home. Usually, we like to spend, like, an extra couple of hours, like, dissecting all the Lost Belty themes. But this Lost Belt doesn't really have quite the same, like, type of themes and characters. There's no Cryptor. Limbo is kind of the Lost Belt king, but kind of not, right? We don't run into a beast here, actually. And while Limbo is an agent of the foreign god, he's not really acting in that capacity anymore, right? Like, he basically goes home, and then he's like, well, actually, I want to have a foreign god of my own. Yeah, Ibuki kind of becomes the Lost Belt king, because that was, like, one of Doman's plan, but also not really. I mean, she narratively fills the role of, like, the big heavy hitter we fight at the last minute, but this story is very fast, very streamlined. I like it a lot for, like, thematic reasons, right? Like, I talked about this earlier. I'm a big weeb. All these, like, really classical Japanese fantasy intermixed with a lot of the courtly stuff is really neat, talking about a lot of monsters and setup and stuff. You can definitely tell some of the seams where, like, you can tell they kind of trimmed some stuff down, We talked about that before with, like, obviously the count of Cagliostro, and, like, probably that conversation where we do talk to Shuten before we go about, like, too bad you didn't get to talk to Ibuki anymore. Anyway, bye. Ibuki got unsummoned when the tree was getting broken up. It is kind of fun to have a minimalist cast, Like, sometimes stories like Lost Belts or other major story releases will drop a lot of new characters on you. And obviously you can tell they're supposed to be summonable. This really reused a lot of the cast that we had, And I think ultimately the only, like, new characters are, who are characters are Tsuna and Ibuki. And that works out, And obviously Limbo is summonable now, but he's been built up for a long time. But overall, I feel satisfied with our clone punching, And you mentioned this earlier, Kentoki really feeling like the actual protagonist and having the actual character arc is pretty cool for once.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to the usual thing with Lost Belts is usually where we're like, we have to go through the character development of, once again, shit, we gotta kill all these people, kinda. But also, man, it's really fucked up here. As you also brought up the line where we talk about at the end, where, like, the master is just like, no, I got to, like, I didn't have to hold anything back here, I just let it all out and did my best, And I talked about earlier how I also like these several dialogue points where people are like, oh, you've got fight in your eyes. What are you fighting for, kid? And you're like, I'm fighting to take back my world. So why I'm here, it's neat. I think that the way they place this after you're done with it in main interlude is kind of like where this goes thematically, right? Like, ultimately, this isn't a completely necessary main story beat. It's still very thematically connected to the Lost Belts, and the prologue especially has a lot of important info you need, but it's also not super long-term important other than it establishes where the fuck Limbo went and what happened to him. He ran away like a little baby man, and then we punched him very hard. He exploded. Yeah, it's a really cool read, but plot-wise, it's very simple. And I appreciate that. I hope you guys appreciate that. Out there in the audience, let us know your thoughts if you're done with the chapter, if you're still here. But yeah, Lucky, any other final thoughts yourself about
Not
Heian-kyo?
really. I think we got out most of what we need to get out.
All right. So, still a pretty long episode, breaking down the beats. I think it worked pretty well for improv, though obviously we did forget the order some stuff happened in. But because this recording is almost 4 hours long, I will not do Fan Serving Friday. We can push that to next time, when we've probably got a less big show. Hopefully more of you can enjoy the Heian-kyo stuff. There's going to be a lot of weird timecode things going on. But since it is now officially 1 a.m., 1:01 a.m. actually for me, we can probably wind down and do the outro. I don't really have any other, like, business or predictions. The Ibuki banner should start on Monday. I'm going to try and put that script together for Wanted over the weekend. If it takes a little bit, I will apologize ahead of time. But like I said, researching that one might be a little weird. So we'll see how that, plays out for me. It's thematically appropriate, very funny. Somebody made the at-home meme. Sorry, I've been sitting so long, I'm starting to get a little sweaty. So, we'll go ahead and do outro stuff. In December, you can expect the Santa Carna event. You should do that one, because there's no rerun, and you don't get that welfare again. We'll also probably have that Murasaki Shikabu banner, and maybe those leyline stones and stuff. And other than that, I don't know. I don't really know what we're going to tuck in. Let me know in the comments below if I'm, like, forgetting a hunting quests or an interlude series or something. But I think we've hit most of our main things for the year. So tune in next week for more pain with banners. Or not pain, who knows? Maybe not painful. But with that out of the way, I will do our usual wind-down stuff. If you liking this video, first of all, give it a like, but also check out some of the other stuff we're done. Last week we streamed this episode. If you want to, hear our thoughts live over the stream and the panel, it was really good. We didn't really talk about that again because we reacted to it live. But you can also check out streams we did as well. I talked about, we've got Plague's Tale. We're getting close to wrapping up. That's streamed on Mondays. We'll have another episode coming out this next Monday. Streamed Final Fantasy XIV. I did that a little shorter, but we still managed to get some stuff done this week. That was after finishing Heian-kyo. Also did a bonus Souls Giving stream for Elden Ring. Check that out if you're interested in that sort of thing. We'll be back, later on. Should be later this day, live, unless this edit takes so fucking long it's not, and then it happened before. But watch What's Up. It's our podcast about all kinds of stuff. Luckily, I'll be playing something. I'm going to take a guess. It's probably going to be Neo 2. But maybe it won't be.
I streamed Neo 2 before yet?
On What's Up, I don't think so.
Okay.
You streamed to the
probably.
Discord. Oh,
Then
and if you did stream it, it was like a long time ago when you were like first playing it.
No, I think that was Neo 1.
Yeah. So maybe. Or maybe
God,
something
I hope
else.
I'm still not fighting fucking Saito Toshimitsu tomorrow.
But
well, I'll talk about it fucking tomorrow.
okay, we'll talk about it tomorrow. All right. So check out that What's Up if you want to see it. And also, we will continue to do future streams. So give us a like, leave a comment in the comment section down below if you have any reactions to the stuff we said. Talk about your experience with the chapter. Try to avoid, major spoilers in the comments this week, right away, because, there are going to be people who aren't going to be caught up and will be skipping stuff to time codes. Don't make me put you in comment jail. But, you can give your general likes and dislikes of the chapter, and any of the other stuff we've asked you about. You can also join our Discord. Link is in the video description. If you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more of this. More stuff like this. And ring that bell so you always know when we're posting a video. In case this video does take an extra couple of hours to edit together and export and has to be released at a different time, the bell helps. You can also join our channel memberships, get access to membership badges and emotes, helps out the channel, small fees. Or, like I said at the front of the show, support us on Patreon, get access to this episode in audio format, downloadable relatively early. Get access to our back catalog of Audible downloads and other fun stuff, and it also really helps us out and helps Lucky fund that desk and that tablet that he bought, which are vaguely work-related to this. Lucky's getting bullied.
I am getting bullied.
I know that side.
I hate this man so much. You shouldn't be able to be so good at two things at once. It's bullshit. I can't swing my sword and then immediately fucking cast a spell. Fuck you.
Damn. He really do be cheating.
No, literally, he will, do a swing and then just flip and just, do a point-blank spell at my face. I'm like, oh, man, I died again.
Yep, so...
He also wields an Odachi, so he has crazy-ass fucking reach.
Yeah, that's another Souls thing. It's very Souls-like of you guys with giant swords. With
I can block spells, but guess what? My key's not infinite. His is. Well, his is infinite, but such a huge fucking bar, it might as well be.
It's a lot of key.
It's a lot of key, or chi, however you want to say it. I like saying
If you don't understand what we're talking about, voice almost died a little there. This is what the What's Up is for. But that's everything I got to say. Come back next week for more Let's Talk FGO. Keep your eye out for other stuff. We'll see you guys next time. And a golden night, everybody.